Chapter 776, Opportunity. Chapter 776, Opportunity. Oh no. Perfected Lord Luo Shuai had a grim expression. The mystic magnet mountain is one of the 7 great ancient unique treasures. Even if the god race leader is not able to unleash its full strength, it's more than enough to suppress everything. More than half of the 7 ancient unique treasures were lost in the ancient war. How did it end up in the hands of the god race leader? Perfected Lord Yujun frowned. At that moment, on another side of the battlefield, the Rakshasa leader who was fighting against Night Spirit noticed the commotion on this side as well. He smiled coldly and said in an odd manner, "Seems like the god race has indeed beaten us to it. It's just luck." The god race leader chuckled smugly. He shook his palm and blood quencher and the glove that was sucked onto it fell off. Good saber. The god race leader raised blood quencher and examined it on purpose in front of Su Zimo before putting it away into his storage bag. "I've got it." Right then, Perfected Lord Yujun said deeply, "The mystic magnet mountain is probably the true motive why the Rakshasa and god race entered the ancient battlefield." That's right. The god race leader did not bother to hide when he heard Perfected Lord Yujun's words. "We obtained clues to the mystic magnet mountain and entered the ancient battlefield for this unique treasure. However, we also heard that the human paragons are gathered in Myriad Phenomenon City, so we dropped by out of convenience." Indeed, it is as we expected. You're all nothing but a bunch of worthless scums. Although many paragons were furious, they could not refute him. Su Zimo remained silent and merely glared at the mystic magnet mountain in the palm of the god race leader, trying to think up a solution. His disadvantage was even greater after that unique treasure was brought out. Notwithstanding the fact that 2 of his carnate spirit weapons were confiscated, even weapons such as his illumination sword formation and coiling dragon seal could not be used. The only thing he could use was the Great Qian Imperial Seal that he had just obtained from Di Yin. However, the Great Qian Imperial Seal was a carnate spirit weapon and would most probably not be able to go against the mystic magnet mountain. The situation was turning extremely dire. Swash. The god race leader did not give Su Zimo any breathing space. In a flash, he closed in swiftly and his blood chi surged, as though a golden ocean with a fearsome aura was created around him. The 5 god race beings in the vicinity struck at the same time. The coordination between the 6 of them was flawless and perfect. The 6 god race beings had waited for a long time and were thoroughly invigorated. However, Su Zimo had been in successive fights and was completely exhausted. Furthermore, 2 of his carnate spirit weapons were taken away and he was now fighting barehanded. It was obvious who would win. Even so, many cultivators watched the battlefield intently with a hint of hope deep in their eyes. Nobody dared blink as they watched with bated breaths. A single second was the difference between life and death in a melee combat fight. When the 6 god race beings closed in, Su Zimo displayed his formidable melee combat prowess in a flash. He judged and controlled the situation with precision. Su Zimo's expression was cold as he bolted in retreat, leaning back against a god race being behind him like a clumsy rock bear. Bang! A dull sound of defeat echoed from their collision. Although Su Zimo smashed against the god race being's fist with his back, the god race being's expression changed. He gave a dull thud and staggered in retreat. That was a killing move from the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. If it was any other race or cultivator, that single move would have snapped their tendons and bones, killing them. With the retreat of the god race being him, Su Zimo's initially cramped maneuvering room became much more spacious. He continued to burst backwards with the momentum and avoided 2 god race beings that lunged from the side. With a sudden spin, his speed exploded once more as he bolted towards the retreating god race being with a ferocious gaze. "Kill!" Su Zimo shouted like the explosion of a deafening thunderbolt. The god race being was alarmed and shuddered. That momentary pause was all it took for Su Zimo to close in. He reached out with both hands and gripped the god race being's shoulders before raising his knee to ram forward. From the point of view of many cultivators, Su Zimo seemed to have vanished from sight. What replaced him was an incomparably divine steed. That single smash released a tragic aura. Snap! The chest of the god race being caved in with a huge dent. His snapped bones stabbed into his lungs and organs. That single attack was enough to kill him. However, the bloodline of the god race was strong and their life force was rich. Even with that blow, the god race being did not die on the spot. He coughed with golden blood in his mouth while he tried to retaliate and kill Suzimo. There was no way Suzimo would accord him that chance. As he rammed with his knee, his arms exerted strength on the god race being's shoulders and he yanked to both sides. Sheeing. The arms of the god race being were ripped off by Suzimo. Fresh blood that shone with a faint golden glow splashed onto the ground. The god race being fell far away and his gaze dimmed. Gradually, his breathing stopped. The crowd burst into an uproar upon the sight of that. This was the number one of the phenomenon ranking, even against the encirclement of 6 god race beings. He was so overwhelming and killed one of them instead. Lowlife, you deserve to die. The other god race beings roared and closed in as well. The god race leader twisted his palm and gripped the ancient unique treasure, the mystic magnet mountain, to smash down viciously onto Suzimo's head. He was ruthless. I've got to get rid of the mystic magnet mountain first. A thought crossed Suzimo's mind. There was something in his possession that, although metallic, had a mysterious origin and might be able to take on the mystic magnet mountain. With that thought, Suzimo no longer hesitated and slapped his storage bag to withdraw a gigantic bronze square tripod. The bronze square tripod was filled with rust and cracks, looking as though it could crack at any moment. However, it gave off an antiquated aura. The aura seemed to date even further back than the ancient phenomenon Steely. Suzimo swung the bronze square tripod and smashed it violently towards the mystic magnet mountain. Clang! The mystic magnet mountain and bronze square tripod collided. A screeching sound of metal clashing echoed and almost pierced everyone's eardrums. Many cultivators that were watching squatted down and clutched their ears with pained expressions. The 2 people in the center of the battlefield even shuddered. Both their palms were split apart by the tremendous recoil and their flesh exploded, rendering them incapable of gripping their weapons. Both the mystic magnet mountain and bronze square tripod were sent flying. Suzimo smashed heavily onto the ground. The god race leader rolled a few times in midair before falling as well. The remaining 4 god race beings had just charged forward when they were sent flying from the shockwave released from the clash of the 2 weapons. Their faces turned pale and their minds buzzed, causing them momentary deafness. Suzimo slammed onto the ground in pain all over and almost fainted over. However, he struggled and stood up at the first moment. Within the dust, his eyes shone coldly as he glared at the god race leader not far away with a murderous intent. An opportunity. This was the only opportunity for him to kill the god race leader. If he could kill the god race leader before the other 4 god race beings regrouped, there might be a chance to turn the tides. Chapter 777 – Futile Efforts. Chapter 777 – Futile Efforts. On the ground, a slender, long figure slithered towards the god race leader, creating dust clouds in its wake. It was like a swift anaconda that moved extremely fast. The god race leader had just stabilized his body when he felt a suffocating, evil aura charge towards him. Kill. A roar exploded in the ears of the god race leader. Thunderclap kill. The divine blood of the god race leader surged and negated the attack of the sound attack almost instantly. He was unaffected. The next moment, as a sandstorm raged, a figure appeared faintly in a hunched manner. The eyes of the figure were deeply murderous as he pushed up towards the god race leader's chin, as though he was offering an immortal fruit. Good timing. The god race leader hollered loudly, "I'll let you have a taste of the strength of the god race." He did not avoid or retreat and took a half step forward as he curled his arm with his elbows down like a gigantic spear. He aimed at Suzimo's incoming hands and thrust down fiercely. Bang! The flesh and bones collided with a dull, forceful sound. Suzimo shuddered and grunted deeply. His clasped hands were almost separated from the god race leader's attack. That single exchange made him realize that the god race leader was strong, extremely strong. Even if he was in peak condition, he might not be able to secure victory in melee combat. The bloodline of the god race was indeed frightening. Right now, Suzimo was already exhausted and the power of his inner core and blood chi were greatly diminished. he could not withstand the blows from the god race leader. Right then, after the god race leader thrust his elbows down, he took another half-step forward and flung his arm fiercely like an iron whip. Swoosh! His arm smashed down towards Suzumo's head and the wind howled in its wake. The two moves were perfectly executed with a fluid motion. Given Suzumo's condition, there was no way he could defend against the attack. Furthermore, he had already sensed that the four god race beings who were scattered not far away were already rushing over. If he were to retreat at this moment, he would lose the opportunity to kill the god race leader completely. Suzumo's gaze turned cold as he narrowed his eyes. He raised his right hand and gripped his fist to defend against the attack. The divine phoenix bone was in his right hand. No matter how strong the god race leader was, he could not destroy the divine phoenix bone. If he could release the power of the divine phoenix bone, Suzumo would be able to seize the opportunity to kill the god race leader. If not, the god race leader would definitely take some damage as well. Bang! The two fists collided. The power of the divine phoenix bone was not triggered. Suzumo gasped and frowned with a pained expression. Although the divine phoenix bone ensured that his palm would definitely be intact, he still endured the terrifying blow in his arm which caused unimaginable pain. While the divine phoenix bone was a mythical object, Suzumo was not able to wield its power yet, and it did not provide much of a boost to his combat strength. Ah! The god race leader was not in the best state either, as he exclaimed and retracted his arm. His fist was bruised as blood clots converged. Naturally, a small injury as such was nothing for the god race leader. His golden divine blood surged and his arm had already recovered. At that moment, Suzumo endured the pain and leaped up. He withdrew the Great Chen Imperial Seal from his storage bag with his left hand and smashed it down the head of the god race leader. He gripped his right fist and hurled it down like a gigantic hammer as well. Humph! The god race leader did not retreat still as he extended both arms at lightning speed. His fingers were outstretched and shone with golden glows as a terrifying power surged through them. It was clear that he was releasing a secret skill of the god race. Swoosh! Almost at the same time, the Great Chen Imperial Seal leader's hands gripped the Great Chen Imperial Seal and Suzumo's fists. Both parties were in a stalemate right in front of one another, contending against the other's strength. You can't win. The eyes of the god race leader flickered with golden spots. Not necessarily. Suzumo sneered gently and suddenly, a blinding light burst forth from his right eye. It resembled a blazing sun that illuminated the entire world like daylight. An incomparably dazzling light column shot towards the god race leader's face. Illumination Eye. This was Suzumo's killing move. Everything he had done earlier was for this burst attack. The two of them were way too close and it was impossible to dodge. Visual technique. It's a visual technique. What a strong visual technique. It might even be comparable to Di Yin's Eclipse Eye. Cries of surprises came from the crowd. In the cultivation world, it was extremely rare to find secret skills for vocal or visual techniques. Even if one possessed the cultivation technique, they might not be able to cultivate it successfully. Throughout history, there had been countless people who blinded themselves while attempting to cultivate visual techniques. Visual techniques were secret skills that could be released instantly and were extremely difficult to defend against. Right now, the god race leader was faced with the attack of a visual technique. The power of the light column could definitely destroy him. He could smell the scent of death that had been waiting for a long time. The god race leader wielded the Great Chen Imperial Seal with his left hand and Suzumo's fist with his right hand. Given their distance, it was too late if he wanted to release his grips to defend against the power of the visual technique. Suzumo had calculated everything. There was nobody to save him. Only he could save himself. In a flash, a golden spot of light shone from the depths of the god race leader's eyes and his eyes turned completely golden. They were cold, merciless and exuded a boundless might. God's Eye. Accompanied with a holler, the god race leader's eyes shone brightly golden and released two golden rays. The two golden rays converged in midair to form an even thicker golden light column which collided fiercely against the blinding white ray. God's Eye, the visual technique of the god race. It could only be cultivated with the bloodline of the god race. Sizzle. The two light columns collided in midair and paused for a brief moment before letting out a screeching sound. Both powers were eating one another. Immediately after, the blinding white ray intensified and destroyed the golden light in front of it. It shot right into the left eye of the God Race leader and vanished. Ah! The God Race leader howled miserably. He burst in retreat and clutched his left eye. At the same time, he bit his tongue and spat out a mouthful of essence blood to set up a series of golden light shields in front of his body. Suzimo was about to charge forward with his advantage, but he was blocked by the golden light shields. Thereafter, he was surrounded by golden, surging blood chi that attacked from all directions. The four God Race beings had already arrived. What a pity! Suzimo sighed when he looked at the God Race leader who was not far away. In reality, if the God Race leader had not cultivated God's Eye, the power of Illumination Eye would definitely pierce his head and kill him on the spot. However, with the obstruction of the God's Eye's power, that sure-kill move ended up merely blinding the God Race leader's left eye. The God Race leader's reaction was even swifter and he was not flustered over the blow. He bolted in retreat instantly while laying down his moves to prevent Suzimo from chasing him. If that wasn't the case, Suzimo would have been able to continue his chase and kill the God Race leader. He felt helpless, everything was futile. Although the fight merely lasted for a brief moment, it expended Suzimo's final bit of stamina and mental energy. Right now, the four God Race beings had already encircled him. It was almost impossible for him to attempt to kill the God Race leader once more. Or rather, it was already impossible for Suzimo to even defend himself right now. Chapter 778 Illumination Dragon Eye. Chapter 778 Illumination Dragon Eye. Bang! 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 Suzimo could no longer defend against the incoming four God Race beings and could only try his best to avoid taking damage to his vitals. However, he received 3 heavy punches to his chest, abdomen, and back. He staggered 3 steps in retreat with a pale expression and his bones felt like they were on the verge of scattering. His blood chi surged and his organs were immensely shaken. Every single breath he took had a strong blood stench. If it was any other cultivator, their bodies would have been split apart by a single punch from a God Race being, let alone 3. On the other side, Night Spirit's initially cold expression turned slightly anxious as he looked at everything unfold. Upon closer inspection, it could be seen that in the depths of his eyes, there was a hint of conflict, hesitation, and cautiousness still. Night Spirit was still not in his true form. Even so, the number of Rakshasas that died in his hands increased by the moment. Even the Rakshasa leader could not stop Night Spirit's slaughter. As time passed by, the Rakshasa leader became increasingly alarmed. He could vaguely sense that the black-robed man seemed to be repressing something. It was as though there was an even more terrifying and frightening power hidden within the black-robed man's body. The only reason why it wasn't released was due to the black-robed man's consideration. The Rakshasa leader harbored thoughts of retreating. However, Night Spirit was distracted when Suzimo was in danger and the Rakshasa leader seized the chance to cut a bloody gash on Night Spirit's leg. The wound was so deep that his bone could be seen. If Night Spirit was a tad slower in dodging that attack, his entire leg would have been severed. Blood gushed everywhere. Night Spirit did not say anything, but his expression turned frostier. The Rakshasa leader's mind was activated once again upon the sight of Night Spirit's injury. The situation at Suzimo's side is fixed. Once he's killed, I might be able to kill this mysterious black-robed man with the help of the God Race. At that thought, the Rakshasa leader declared, "Everyone, let's persevere for a little more. Once our friends from the God Race are here to assist us, this lowlife will definitely die." There were less than 20 Rakshasas remaining. They released a wave of ferocious attacks under the lead of the Rakshasa leader. However, despite his injury, Night Spirit could still render the attacks useless one after another. On the other side, Suzimo was pushed back by the 4 God Race beings. He barely managed to stabilize himself and had yet to catch his breath when a golden figure streaked through the air with a suffocating pressure. A dreadful aura charged towards him. Although he could only see after images, Suzimo could guess that the God Race leader had attacked. This was an attack filled with rage. His punch contained the boundless wrath and fury of the God Race. Suzimo had almost no stamina left and struggled to raise his heavy right hand to shield himself. Boom! That punch landed heavily on Suzimo's right hand. The tremendous force sent Suzimo flying. Snap! His right arm snapped and was completely bent out of shape. Even with his indestructible body, Suzimo's arm was snapped by the terrifying power released by the God Race leader. Thump! His almost invincible and unparalleled body smashed heavily onto the ground like a meteor and created huge dust clouds. Filled with injuries, he laid on the ground motionlessly with his fate unknown. Mud stuck onto all the blood that drenched his body in a horrifying sight. The eyes of many cultivators dimmed. They were clear about the situation. Suzimo was defeated. In other words, this meant that none of them would be able to leave Myriad Phenomenon City alive. The God Race leader had a dark expression. His initially handsome face had turned incomparably menacing and there was no eyeball in his left eye. In its place was a bloody, hollow socket. The area around his injury was burned completely by a scorching power. Tar! 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 The God Race leader strode forward step by step with a boundless killing intent in his lone eye. The killing intent was not only targeted at Suzimo, but at every single cultivator present. Since he destroyed my eye, I shall have all of you die together. The chilling voice of the God Race leader echoed through every single corner of Myriad Phenomenon City. Everyone from the God Race were incomparably good-looking and were extremely concerned about their appearances. Now that his right eye was destroyed, he would definitely fall out of favor. It was worse than disfigurement. His status within the God Race would definitely fall rapidly. Nobody would place him in high regards. Somebody had to pay the price for that. The many cultivators were devastated. Young master. Little Fox cried so badly that her eyes were swollen as she dashed out of the crowd towards Suzimo. Monkey and the others could not hold back any longer and charged forward as well. Don't come. Suddenly, Suzimo's voice sounded. Although it was weak, his tone was resolute and unquestionable. Everyone stopped in their tracks. Immediately after, in front of countless gazes, the figure that laid in the mud pushed his battered body up with a single arm and slowly rose. Suzimo strode over slowly. His broken right arm was slumped to the side. Suzimo's broken arm, connected by a single layer of flesh, swayed gently as he walked as though it could snap at any time. A moment later, Suzimo walked in front of the cultivators present and shielded them from the God Race leader once again. His back view looked frail and wretched. In fact, it seemed as though it could collapse at any moment. However, at that moment, all the cultivators were in reverence. Some of them sniffled and could not help but tear. Highs. Monk Yin Lu sighed deeply. Patron Su, you've tried your best. Perfected Lord Yu Jun had a forlorn expression as he said, it isn't the sin of war. This is a calamity. This is fate. Suzimo remained silent with his back facing everyone. I don't believe in fate. A moment later, he slowly spoke, even if this is fate, I'm going to alter it. Foo. The God Race leader on the other end suddenly laughed. The socket on his face looked even more gruesome. Illumination Dragon Eye. He snarled and remarked, to think that you've managed to cultivate the Illumination Dragon Eye. Suzimo was momentarily stunned. The visual technique he cultivated was incredibly strong and was imparted to him by the red-headed ghost at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. The red-headed ghost did not mention its name and merely named it Illumination Eye based on the illumination stone in his right eye. Could the true name of this visual technique be Illumination Dragon Eye? If it's called the Illumination Dragon Eye, why did the red-headed ghost have to hide it from me? How does the God Race know about the origin of this visual technique? Illumination Dragon Eye, Illumination Dragon. Suzimo furrowed his brows as questions filled his mind. Everything was chaotic and couldn't be explained simply. However, it was not his fault either. The consecutive battles took an immense toll on his body and mental state. If this was during normal times, he would have understood the meaning behind it. Stop pretending. The God Race leader sneered. On Tianhuang mainland, the most ferocious and frightening visual techniques belong to the Heavenly Eye race. Apart from the Heavenly Eye race, only the Illumination Dragon Eye can destroy my God's Eye. The Heavenly Eye race, one of the primordial 9 races, The god race leader did not conceal the killing intent in his eyes as he barked frostily, "I don't care how you are related to the dragon race or how you managed to cultivate that secret skill of the dragon race. It doesn't matter who they are, nobody will be able to save you today." Dragon race. Suzimo had a blank look on his face. His only connection to the dragon race was the half-dragon egg he consumed back in the Dragonbone Valley. What has his visual technique got to do with the dragon race? Dragon race, dragon race. Suzimo frowned and muttered groggily. A terrifying power deep within his bloodline rumbled and slowly awakened. Chapter 779, Dragonification. Chapter 779, Dragonification. The single eye of the god race leader surged with boundless hatred and he emanated a torrential killing intent. Although he did a great deed by locating one of the 7 great ancient unique treasures, the mystic magnet mountain, in this trip to the ancient battlefield, the loss he suffered was way too great. His blinded eye was a loss that could not be reversed or salvaged. He could tell that Suzimo hid a lot of secrets within his body. If he could get his hands on Suzimo's secrets, he might be able to minimize his losses today. "Are you still going to struggle?" The god race leader walked slowly towards Suzimo with an oppressive aura as he said coldly, "Given your current condition, you won't even be able to defend a single finger of mine." Blood was the only thing that could quench the god race leader's fury right now. The distance between the two of them decreased. A destructive power could descend at any moment. It wasn't just Suzimo. Which of the cultivators present could be lucky enough to survive? Suzimo looked at the god race leader with a cold gaze. However, there was a restless power within his body that felt like it was going to explode at any moment. The distance between the two of them decreased. When Night Spirit noticed the situation on this side, the killing intent in his eyes intensified as he let out a deep growl. A powerful roar erupted from the depths of his throat. Immediately after, Night Spirit's bones began to transform. Crackling sounds echoed wildly and in the blink of an eye, an incomparably menacing beast head appeared. It resembled both a wolf and a dog with sharp fangs and purple scales lined its entire surface. Night Spirit did not revert to his true form entirely and merely his head was in his demon form. Even so, he emanated a shuddering aura. The Rakshasa leader felt his scalp prickle at the sight of Night Spirit. He was unnerved and his hairs stood on end. Thereafter, as though he recalled something, his pupils constricted violently as he murmured instinctively, "You are." Before he finished his sentence, he was interrupted by Night Spirit's roar. Immediately after, Night Spirit's speed exploded and he burst towards the Rakshasa leader. The Rakshasa leader was stricken with fear and fled in the reverse direction without hesitation. He did not turn back at all. Swash! A dark shadow tore through the air at an extremely fast speed. Its speed surpassed the speed of the Rakshasa leader and it arrived instantly. Poof! A flash of blood appeared. One of the Rakshasa leader's meat wings was pierced by the black shadow. The black shadow was Night Spirit's tail. His tail was extremely sharp and shone with a cold glint as it swayed in midair like an agile snake. The next moment, Night Spirit grabbed the Rakshasa leader's shoulders with both hands. He lunged forward and chomped down directly on the Rakshasa leader's neck. That single bite almost snapped the Rakshasa leader's neck. "Why you?" The Rakshasa leader's windpipe was crushed and his body convulsed. He had a terrified expression and seemed like he wanted to say something but could not complete the sentence. Night Spirit did not accord him the chance as he bit down on the Rakshasa leaders and twisted viciously. Snap! A massive head was ripped off by Night Spirit. The Rakshasa leader was dead. From the moment Night Spirit started his attack to the death of the Rakshasa leader, everything happened in less than a single breath. Although the scene was shocking, not many people noticed it. That was because almost everyone was drawn towards a sound. Ancient dragonification art. Suzimo's voice sounded. "That's a secret skill of the human emperor." Perfected Lord Yujun exclaimed. Nobody expected that Suzimo would persevere given the circumstances. His spirit energy was depleted and he was unable to release the ancient dragonification art. However, earlier on, a single thought crossed his mind unfathomably. He could use the power of his inner core to activate the ancient dragonification art. Su Zimo gathered the remnant demonic power within his body and demonic chi rumbled. With the power of his inner core, he activated the ancient dragonification art and suddenly summoned a frightening power that laid dormant within the depths of his body for a long time. His blood chi had long deteriorated after the consecutive battles. However, at that moment, his bloodline was ignited with a tremendous wave of life force. Like a cyclone and a tsunami, it surged into every single corner of his corner and cruised through his limbs, washing through his organs. It was painful. Immensely painful. The pain was omnipresent. Su Zimo felt as though his body was about to explode. Roar. He jerked his head upwards violently and howled into the skies. It was bright, loud, and penetrated metal and rocks with the aura of an ancient might. The roar seemed as though it was from the primordial era and could shatter stars. In that instant, the entire world shook and the weather changed. The howl released from Su Zimo's mouth did not belong to a human. Dragon roar? Perfected Lord Yu Jun's eyes were widened and his voice quivered. The crowd was shocked. The next moment, right in front of countless gazes, an even more shocking scene unfolded. The broken bone of his right arm began to regenerate. His terrifying bloodline washed through his wounds continuously. His arm was forming once again, although it could not recover completely within a short period of time. The scene was shocking enough. Su Zimo's tendons and bones echoed together and his body transformed rapidly. His bones twisted and his flesh expanded, joining his muscles together like the roots of a tree and resembled molten steel. Even more frightening than that, green scales appeared on Su Zimo's arms, legs, chest and back. They shone with cold glints and extended rapidly to swiftly line his entire body. His snapped right arm did not change much as it was still recovering. However, his left arm became unusually muscular with green veins all over it. Lined with green scales, it was forceful and possessed a malevolent aura. A green glow flickered from Su Zimo's palms as the scales lined even more densely without any gaps at all. The scales were like blades and a deep green finger joint protruded with an explosive force. That was no longer a palm, it was a claw. The claw was cold and sharp as it gave off a shuddering aura and was not weaker than any weapon. Clang. Instinctively, Su Zimo moved his fingers such that the sharp claws made contact. Instantly, a jarring sound of metal colliding echoed. Su Zimo was stunned when he looked at that strange, gruesome palm of his. The ancient dragonification art had gone out of his control completely. He had truly transformed into a dragon. Although it was not the same shape as someone from the dragon race, his body no longer looked like a human. Even perfected Lord Yu Jun was shocked, let alone the cultivators present. As the successor of Enigma Palace, he had naturally heard about the ancient dragonification art. However, was this the effect of releasing the ancient dragonification art? Could it really transform a cultivator as such? Su Zimo was puzzled as well. Even if he had activated the ancient dragonification art using his inner core, it would definitely not result in this transformation. There must be another reason for this. Su Zimo did not have time to think about it. Right now, he had something more pressing on hand. He had to get rid of the god race. After his dragonification, Su Zimo was still unable to use his right arm. However, he could sense that his body became even more terrifying and frightening. It possessed boundless strength. The expression of the god race leader turned extremely grim. Chapter 780 Brute Force. Chapter 780 Brute Force. The current development of the battle had surpassed the control of the god race leader completely. The dragon race was also one of the primordial 9 races. He could clearly sense the frightening aura that emanated from Su Zimo's bloodline. It was extremely pure and possessed boundless might. That was definitely the bloodline of the dragon race. Furthermore, Su Zimo had definitely released a dragon roar earlier on. The god race leader felt an unprecedented pressure. Kill. The 4 god race beings hollered and their blood chi rumbled. Divine might gushed and golden spears appeared in their palms one after another. Mysterious, antiquated runes were etched on the long spears. Judgment spear. The 4 of them struck at the same time and tossed out the golden spears in their hand. Judgment spear was a secret skill of the god race to begin with. Now that they threw it with the powerful strength of the god race, the spears arrived almost instantly. Suzimo had just draganified and had many questions in his heart. As such, he reacted slower and the 4 golden spears pierced into him. Clang, 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 clang. A metallic sound could be heard. Sparks flew. Right in front of everyone, Suzimo was pushed backwards by the power of the judgment spears. However, the true terror was that the 4 judgment spears did not manage to penetrate Suzimo's defense. They were repelled completely by the scales on his body. Prior to this, there were countless cultivators that died to judgment spear. Against judgment spear, the spirit arts, secret skills, talismans and spirit weapons were like worthless paper. To think that the judgment spears couldn't injure Suzimo at all. Dragon scales. The god race leader's gaze narrowed. Only genuine dragon scales possess such frightening defensive capabilities. Swash. Suzimo's figure vanished from the spot. It was too fast. After his dragonification, Suzimo even surpassed the Rakshasa leader's movement technique and speed. A god race being was alarmed and felt his scalp prickle. Instantly, he conjured a gigantic golden shield of light in front of him. The moment the shield was formed, a figure smashed onto it violently. Boom! A deafening noise echoed. The golden shield of light was shattered by the figure. The figure merely paused for a brief moment before using the momentum to continue and smash onto the god race being. Instantly, the god race being was sent flying and landed around the feet of many cultivators. Many cultivators turned their gazes towards the god race being. The god race being was initially arrogant and domineering. He looked at all the humans as though they were ants. But now, he laid limply on the ground like a dead dog. Everyone could tell that the god race being's meridians were smashed and his tendons and bones were snapped. He was dead. A single blow smashed the god race being to death. Violent. Cruel. Tough. Boom. It was yet another deafening sound. Another god race being was sent flying by Suzimo and was already a corpse when he fell from midair. You. The 3rd god race being was about to speak when he felt a malevolent aura surge to his face and force his words back. The wind was so strong that he could barely open his eyes. The god race being channeled his god's eye instantly and a golden light filled his eyes. His vision expanded. All he could see was Suzimo's tall and mighty figure right in front of him. Swoosh. Suzimo extended his green claws and grabbed the top of the person's head. The god race being raised both arms upwards to try and defend against Suzimo's attack. However, Suzimo was way too strong. The god race being's arms could not handle the blow. The green dragon claw descended and crushed the god race being's head. The final god race being was scared out of his wits and turned to flee. However, he heard a dragon roar the moment he turned. His mind was shaken. The god race being shuddered. He felt a sharp pain in his chest that caused his body to convulse involuntarily. He struggled and looked down. A blooded claw appeared in front of his chest. Within the palm was a steaming heart. That was his heart. The god race being's head fell to the side and he died on the spot. Everything had happened too quickly. Almost in the blink of an eye, the 4 god race beings who surrounded Suzimo initially had all fallen onto the ground and became corpses. Even if the god race leader wanted to step in, he would not have been able to stop Suzimo. After Suzimo killed the 4 god race beings, he did not charge towards the god race leader. Instead, he transformed into a green streak of light in a flash and instantly appeared beside Nyan Chi. There had always been a god race being watching over Nyan Chi. All of a sudden, the god race being felt uneasy and his eyelids twitched. Before he could react to it, a green light flashed before him. Get lost. Immediately after, he heard a cold voice sound in his ears. God's jurisdiction. The god race being did not hesitate and roared. His bloodline surged as he released his bloodline phenomenon right away. His figure vanished from the spot. In its place was an old, mysterious pyramid. Millions of living beings prostrated around the pyramid and recited prayers sincerely. Suzimo had a cold gaze and he possessed the might of someone that looked down on all life. He extended his left hand and gripped his dragon claw into a fist to pummel fiercely on the pyramid. Bang! Boom! Boom! The pyramid that had just formed collapsed instantly against Su Zimo's punch. Even a bloodline phenomenon could not withstand a single punch from Su Zimo. There was no technique or skill involved. It was absolute strength. He was overwhelming everything with brute force. There was nothing that could stop the rampage of the dragon race. The pyramid collapsed and the god race being who was connected to it coughed out a mouthful of fresh blood with a shocked expression. Before his figure could descend, Su Zimo threw out a second punch. Another god race being was dead. Su Zimo reached out with his sharp nails and scratched across the ropes on Nian Qi's body gently. The ropes snapped instantly. Finally, Nian Qi was free. "Thank you, young master." She teared in joy. Su Zimo nodded and turned around, walking step by step towards the god race leader. He emanated a torrential ferocity and his gaze was deadly. To be able to cultivate to his level and become a leader among the god race beings of his generation, the god race leader was definitely not a cowardly man. Furthermore, he had no way of retreat. He was now the only person left among the 7 god race beings that entered the ancient battlefield. It was impossible even if he wanted to escape. He had to fight with his life. Well. The god race leader had a grim expression and his lone eye flickered violently. There was no hint of fear as he said with a cold voice, "Today, we'll see if you can manage to slay a god or if I'll become famous for killing a dragon. Judgment sword, form with my blood of the god race." The god race leader chanted loudly and cut his wrist with his hand. Fresh, golden blood splattered through the void and did not disperse. The amount of golden blood gathered increased. The god race leader's expression turned paler as well. Right in front of everyone, the golden blood slowly converged to form a gigantic golden sword with a terrifying aura. It seemed like it could slice through everything. That was a gigantic sword that was created from the essence blood of the god race leader. Every single portion of the sword possessed the purest and most terrifying power of the god race bloodline. Although this sword was created from blood, it was even more terrifying than carnate spirit weapons. The god race leader believed that even Su Zimo's dragon scales won't be able to defend against the sharpness of the judgment sword. Chapter 781, Settled Dust. Chapter 781, Settled Dust. Clang. The gigantic golden sword in the hands of the god race leader let out blinding rays and his aura exploded. In a flash, he burst towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo's gaze was cold and he did not avoid or dodge. He reached out with his muscular, strong arms and used his sharp dragon claws to grab the gigantic golden sword. Clang. The sword and claw clashed with a jarring sound. A line of sparks appeared along the blade of the sword. Although the gigantic golden sword was sharp, it could not cut away the terrifying claws. A dragon's claw was the toughest part of its body. The sword was repelled high into the air. The expression of the god race leader changed starkly. That single clash made him realize that he could no longer take on the dragonified Su Zimo head-on with his current strength. The bloodline of the dragon race was not the only thing flowing through Su Zimo's body after his dragonification. His powerful bloodline cultivated from the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness flowed within his body as well. Not only that, the dragonification process started from the human emperor's secret skill. In other words, by some freak coincidence, Su Zimo managed to combine multiple powerful techniques together. The might of his dragonification was imaginable. Boom! Su Zimo's aura rose and he leaned forward, arriving before the god race with a heavy stomp. The ground shook and the mountains trembled. Roar! The dragon roar echoed through the world relentlessly. Su Zimo reached out with outstretched fingers and his gigantic, scary dragon claw blanketed over the god race leader's head as it grabbed down. The god race leader grit his teeth and retracted his sword to defend. Clang! It was yet another head-on collision. The bloodline on the gigantic golden sword was shaken considerably and its blood chi dissipated. The god race leader's expression turned even paler. The bloodline of the god race was terrifying and because they were physically strong, they were the best in melee combat among the primordial 9 races. However, against Su Zimo's hand, the god race leader felt an unprecedented danger. Their exchange of blows became even faster and the only thing that could be seen was 2 figures intersecting in a flurry in midair. They were almost like afterimages and could not be seen clearly. Many cultivators could only hear shuddering collision sounds echoing endlessly. Although Su Zimo's right arm was snapped and had yet to recover completely, he had an overwhelming advantage against the God Race leader in terms of strength and speed after his dragonification. Furthermore, he was almost invincible in melee combat after cultivating the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness. Once he had the upper hand, it was almost impossible for his opponents to reverse the tide. 10 short breaths. Within that short period of time, the two of them had already exchanged more than 100 blows. The 100 blows were each extremely dangerous. A single mistake would have led to their death. Boom. It was yet another deafening sound. Two figures collided and split apart instantly, returning firmly to their original positions. Many cultivators watched with bated breaths. Both figures were motionless and it was impossible to tell who won. Finally, the God Race leader let out a deep breath of air. The golden glow on his gigantic golden sword dimmed and turned into a ball of golden blood that splashed onto the ground. A ball of fresh blood oozed from his chest as well, increasing uncontrollably in size as time passed. His gaze gradually went blank also. It was a sign that he was at the end of his life. On the other side, there were less than 10 Rakshasas remaining after the Rakshasa leader was killed by Night Spirit and all of them fled for their lives. Night Spirit was relieved when he saw that Su Zimo was fine. After a quick glance at Su Zimo, he chased down the remaining Rakshasas in a flash. Su Zimo could vaguely guess that Night Spirit was probably hunting down the rest of the Rakshasas because he was worried his secret might be leaked. Unfortunately, I fell a little short. The God Race leader glared at Su Zimo and slowly said, "If I could kill you, the situation would be entirely different right now. However, it's nothing much either." He gave a bitter laugh. "I've said that the age of the human race has long passed. Today's battle merely proved my point further." "Oh." "The Rakshasa and God Race has been completely annihilated in today's battle," Su Zimo sneered. "And what about that? The human race has lived in peace for way too long and no longer possesses the same fighting spirit of the past." The God Race leader pointed at the cultivators at the front and shook his head in laughter. "Look at the grim faces of your so-called human paragons. They did not even have the courage to resist when they faced us of the God Race. How can you guys even rule over Tianhuang mainland? Su Zimo, while you may have won today, you are just one person. A single person won't be able to save the entire human race. Furthermore, look at the state you are in right now. All the cultivators will merely take you as a fiend demon, as someone of a foreign race. Before the God Race even takes revenge for me, you will be outcast from the cultivation world of the human race." Su Zimo was silent. The God Race leader was not wrong about some things. Even though he killed the God Race in Myriad Phenomenon City today and rescued the cultivators behind him, it did not mean that he would be able to fit in the cultivation world outside. The human race loves internal strife. Ha ha ha. The God Race leader laughed in a deranged manner as fresh blood oozed from the corners of his lips. The bloodline of the God Race was terrifying and they had an extremely strong life force. Even though his internal organs were ruptured at that moment and his chest was pierced by Su Zimo's dragon claw, he was still hanging on to life and was not dead yet. "You are wrong, I'm not alone." Su Zimo looked calmly at the God Race leader and said, "There are countless human cultivators out there. You have not seen everyone else who is the same as me." Back then, when the Blood Crow Palace formed an alliance with the other 4 major sects of the Great Jew dynasty to invade Ethereal Peak along with many itinerant cultivators and experts, the situation was dire. Even the Great Jew dynasty did not dare to go against them. However, somebody dared to. The Azura, Yang Beichen. He arrived at Ethereal Peak and injured the Palace Lord of Blood Crow Palace severely with his Azura saber. It did not matter what race or origin they were from. He slew everyone in his path. Su Zimo believed that if Yang Beichen was the one here, he would have attacked without retreating as well. Previously, he got into big trouble when he consumed the dragon egg in the Dragonbone Valley. A true dragon was drawn out and hunted him all the way to the capital of Great Jew. A mysterious old man attacked and pushed back the true dragon. What sort of boldness was that? Notwithstanding those people, even among myriad phenomenon city, apart from him, Lin Xuanji, Little Fatty, Demonis Ji Chengtian and the others stood out one after another and fought with their lives to protect the final shred of dignity of the human race. The path ahead is long. Su Zimo looked at Little Fatty and the others as he said calmly, they might not be able to compare to the primordial 9 races right now, but the day will come when they will be able to match you guys. Humans were innately weak, but they possessed boundless potential and even gave birth to an existence like the eternal human emperor that brought fear throughout history. The primordial 9 races could not do anything but avoid him and live an ignoble existence. The glint in the eyes of the god race leader dimmed gradually. Not long after, his body fell with a thud and no longer breathed. Everything was over, the dust was settled. Many cultivators were finally relieved of their pressure. Everyone felt as though they had just escaped death. There was an indescribable joy. Every single cultivator had a conflicted expression as they gazed at Su Zimo, who was soaked in blood and the corpses strewn across the city. Prior to this, many among them shouted at Su Zimo and wanted to kill him, attacking Little Fatty, Xiaoning and the others as well. But now, their lives were saved by Su Zimo. At the thought of that, many cultivators looked ashamed and even guilty. Chapter 782, Stir. Chapter 782, Stir. The power of Su Zimo's inner core was completely expended after his consecutive battles. The dragon scales on his body faded away gradually and he reverted to his original appearance right in front of countless gazes. His black hair danced and he looked like a refined scholar with his clear eyes. If they had not seen it themselves, nobody would have imagined that the 100-foot-tall ancient demon with a humongous body, the frightening existence with sharp fangs and claws and was lined with dragon scales, was actually this refined scholar before them. Who could have imagined that this seemingly frail scholar almost resolved the earth-shaking catastrophe single-handedly? He stopped the dam from breaking through, a tower from toppling. This was the number 1 of the phenomenon ranking. The impact of this battle was immensely huge on the cultivators who survived. The impact was not only on their cultivation realm and mental state, it even changed their understanding of the 10,000 races, the cultivation world and Tianhuang mainland. Many cultivators gained a true realization of the difference between them and the primordial 9 races. Although they were in the same cultivation realm, they were completely helpless against the Rakshasa and god race. Su Zimo's figure shuddered for a moment and he experienced waves of weakness from within his body. His tongue went dry, his head spun and a deeply exhausted look appeared on his face. Young master. 2 figures dashed forward at almost the same time and exclaimed. They were Nyan Chi and Little Fox. Su Zimo smiled and said softly, I'm fine. Young master, it's all my fault. Nyan Chi looked ashamed as she pursed her lips. If it wasn't for me. Even if you weren't here, this battle would have been unavoidable. Su Zimo interrupted Nyan Chi. Lin Xuanji, Little Fatty, and the others circled over as well. Brother Su, it's all thanks to you this time round. Lin Xuanji was no longer in his happy-go-lucky attitude and bowed deeply to Su Zimo with a solemn expression. There's no need to speak of such things between us. Su Zimo thumped Lin Xuanji on the chest and chuckled. Back in the Dragon Bone Valley, Su Zimo would have died if it wasn't for Lin Xuanji. Su Zimo suspected that the mysterious old man that appeared in the capital of Great Ju later on had something to do with Lin Xuanji as well and might even be a powerful figure of Enigma Palace. Xiaoning's eyes were red and swollen, a clear sign that she had just cried. She handed Su Zimo a few elixirs and only looked relieved after he consumed them. Little Fatty rolled his eyes. Boss, I'll go help you collect the treasures and bring them over for you. There were rivers of blood and corpses strewn all over myriad phenomenon city after the earth-shaking battle. However, there were countless treasures within the rivers of blood and corpses. The most important among them was the mystic magnet mountain, which was one of the 7 ancient unique treasures. Most of the treasures no longer had any owners and Little Fatty offered to help Su Zimo collect them because he was worried that others might steal them sneakily. Su Zimo said deeply, help me collect the storage bags of the Rakshasa and god race as well as the mystic magnet mountain. There's no need to take the storage bags of the other cultivators. Let the surviving cultivators retrieve the belongings of their own sects. Su Zimo could take the storage bags of the Rakshasa and God race with a peace of mind. However, he did not wish to lay his hands on the belongings of the 50,000 cultivators that died here. Perfected Lord Yu Jun nodded in silence when he saw that. No matter what, his character alone was superior to way too many people. Little Fatty helped to collect the bronze square tripod and other treasures and handed them to Su Zimo. Foo 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 foo. Suddenly, a chuckle came not far away. A cultivator stood on Zephyr Thunder and arrived before everyone at an extremely fast speed. He stood on midair and looked down upon the masses. Tian Ming. Perfected Lord Luo Shui frowned. It was Perfected Lord Tian Ming of Zephyr Thunder Palace who had escaped from Myriad Phenomenon City earlier on. Perfected Lord Tian Ming surveyed the surroundings and his gaze lingered on Su Zimo for a long time, coveting the storage bag on the latter's waist with a greedy look. Su Zimo lowered his eyes slightly without saying anything. The hearts of Perfected Lord Yu Jun and the other two sank upon the sight of Perfected Lord Tian Ming's return. Su Zimo was completely spent by now. Although he had just consumed elixirs, there was no way he could absorb the medicinal effects within a short period of time. Night Spirit had already left to hunt down the remaining Rakshasas. The three of them were severely injured and their wounds would open up if they made any large movements. There was no way they could fight. The other cultivators were all golden cores and almost everyone was injured. If Perfected Lord Tian Ming harbored evil intentions, nobody could stop him. Perfected Lord Yu Jun asked indifferently with no emotions, Tian Ming, since you've already fled, what are you doing here again? When the Rakshasa race attacked, the Rakshasa leader chased after Perfected Lord Tian Ming. The reason why Perfected Lord Tian Ming survived was because the three Perfected Lords saved him in the nick of things. Yet, Perfected Lord Tian Ming turned to flee and left the three of them in a precarious situation. The three of them harbored immense detest towards this person. If they were not severely injured and in a bad state, Perfected Lord Luo Shui might have already attacked him given her temper. Fellow Daoist Yu Jun, what are you saying? Perfected Lord Tian Ming smiled gently. I meant to sacrifice myself by luring away the Rakshasa leader when I left Myriad Phenomenon City. To think that he didn't chase after me. When I noticed that, I headed back immediately with the intention of fighting the Rakshasa race to the death. Seems like I was a bit too late. His explanation was filled with loopholes and even a child would not believe him, let alone the three nascent souls. Many cultivators of Zephyr Thunder Palace felt their cheeks burning in shame. Shameless coward. Perfected Lord Luo Shui could not help but chide. Humph. Perfected Lord Tian Ming replied coolly, Luo Shui, you've got to watch your word. I can kill you with ease given your current condition. It's best if you don't provoke me. Perfected Lord Luo Shui stood up furiously. Despite the rupturing of her wounds, she shouted with dignity, Tian Ming, you are nothing but a coward that ran off with his tail between his legs in front of the Rakshasa race. How dare you get cocky in front of me? Perfected Lord Tian Ming's expression darkened and his gaze shimmered. He looked at Perfected Lord Luo Shui for a long time before retracting his gaze and repressing his killing intent. Right now, he had something more pressing on hand and did not want to waste time with others. Perfected Lord Tian Ming said indifferently, on account of the fact that you're someone from Snowdrift Valley and you're a woman as well, I'll spare your life for the time being. I've returned to deal with something else. With that said, he turned to look at Su Zimo. Junior, hand over your storage bag and I'll spare your life. Perfected Lord Tian Ming said coldly with an indifferent expression. The crowd gradually went silent. Many cultivators looked indignant but they did not dare to speak up. Tian Ming, what's the meaning of this? Perfected Lord Yu Jun repressed his fury as much as he could and said with a deep voice, this catastrophe was resolved because of Su Zimo. Yet, you're trying to hit him when he's down now? You're making things sound too serious. Perfected Lord Tian Ming replied, he possesses the secret skill of Zephyr Thunder Palace, the Perfected Lord Tian Ming. I'm merely retrieving the secret skill of my sect. What do you mean by hitting him when he's down? Since your intention is to retrieve the Purple Thunder Manual, why do you need his storage bag? Monk Yin Lu questioned. Perfected Lord Tian Ming chuckled. Who knows what else he's keeping in his storage bag? There might be other treasures from Zephyr Thunder Palace apart from the Purple Thunder Manual. I'll do a quick check and retrieve everything at one go. He was almost blatantly committing a robbery. He's clearly taking advantage of the situation, and yet he puts it across so righteously. How shameless. Little Fatty could not help but curse. Lin Xuanji and the others were enraged as well. Chapter 783 Evil of Men. Chapter 783 Evil of Men. Perfected Lord Tianming's heart was burning. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Right now, all the cultivators in Myriad Phenomenon City were either exhausted or seriously injured. Nobody could stop him. Initially, he was wary about that black-robed man named Night Spirit. But Night Spirit had already left Myriad Phenomenon City in pursuit of the remaining Rakshasas. Although there were not many Rakshasas left, they fled in all directions. It was impossible for Night Spirit to hunt them down within a short period of time. As long as he could get his hands on Suzimo's storage bag as soon as possible and flee far away to hide, nobody would be able to find him in this vast ancient battlefield. Although it was quite a dishonorable act, he had his way of explaining things upon his return to Tianhuang mainland. After all, nobody could blame him if he did it to retrieve Zephyr Thunder Palace's secret skill. Tianming, don't forget that there are more than 50,000 paragons here as well. Perfected Lord Yu Jun said deeply. You've got to get through them before you can get your hands on Suzimo's storage bag. Even if we're severely injured, do you think you can defend against 50,000 cultivators single-handedly? That's right. Pang Yu of Overlord Palace stood out. Although his face was pale, he patted his chest and declared loudly, "It's all thanks to fellow Daoist Su that we're alive today. If you want to lay your hands on him, I'll be the first to stand out. You'll have to get through my sword to get to him." Dugu Jian remarked coldly. Within the crowd, cultivators stood out one after another. Some of them were familiar while others were foreign. There were both opponents and friends of the past. Of course, most of the cultivators remained silent. Some of them wanted to speak but stopped. Some of them looked on with hesitant expressions while others watched by the sidelines. Instantly, the different types of characters were revealed completely. Perfected Lord Tianming's lips curled when he noticed that. He composed himself further and shouted, "Everyone, don't be foolish. Suzimo is still someone of a foreign race. The reason why he stood in was to rescue his friend. He doesn't care about whether you guys live or die. There are many among you who once encircled and attacked his friends. Who knows, he might even want to get even with you guys after his injuries are healed." A stir broke out amongst the crowd. Perfected Lord Tianming's words resonated with some of the cultivators. He laughed even brighter when he saw that. Nobody knows if he'll want to try and kill you tomorrow even if you protect him today. Perfected Lord Tianming's beguiling voice continued on. Don't forget, he's from a foreign race. Who can guarantee that he won't treat you the same way as the Rakshasa and God race did? Don't forget the old saying. Those that are not of our race are our enemies. The perfected Lord isn't entirely wrong. That's right, he did not fight against the Rakshasa and God race for our sake. There's no need for us to protect him. This man even took on the dragon race's form earlier. The dragon race is one of the primordial 9 races and they aren't much better than the Rakshasa and God race. Discussions broke out among the crowd. However, they were soft and were not overwhelming. Demonis G gave an ironic laugh at the sight of that. Today, I finally know what it means to beget kindness with evil. This is nothing more than the evil of men's nature. That is human nature indeed. Lin Xuanji sighed. Mortals assume that all cultivators are righteous without any desires. However, they don't know that cultivators actually possess the deepest desires. The cultivation world is no paradise and is much crueler than the secular world. There's schemes and plots to kill others for their treasures everywhere. Some cultivators can resort to any means for the sake of longevity and strength. What difference does it make if they beget kindness with evil? All of you, listen up. Suddenly, perfected Lord Yu Jun bellowed. Although his arm injury split open immediately and blood gushed out, he was indifferent towards it. It doesn't matter if Suzimo is a demon or a dragon. In this world, anyone can attack him, but not all of you. He pointed to the vast crowd of more than 50,000 cultivators with a stern expression as he said word by word, "That's because all of you here owe him your life." The clamor within the crowd quietened down gradually once again. Monk Yin Lu clasped his palms today and uttered a Buddhist proclamation softly before saying, "I don't know about sayings regarding other races and the rights or wrongs of the world. However, I know one thing. He saved all of us here and almost killed himself in the process. All of us would be dead right now if it wasn't for him. We would be spirits in the hands of the god race and food in the hands of the Rakshasa race. While I don't know what is right or wrong, I know what is gratitude and loyalty." His impassioned words were firm and deafening. Some people lowered their heads while others had guilty expressions. Perfected Lord Tianming's expression was dark. When he saw that the situation was shifting away from his favor, he could not help but declare coldly, "Monk Yin Lu, don't try to confuse everyone with your falsehood." At that moment, Perfected Lord Tianming was already prepared to attack. He could not let things drag on anymore. The longer things dragged on, the worse the situation would be for him. Once Night Spirit returned, it would be too late even if he wanted to escape. Right now, the remaining 50,000 cultivators had different interests and were not united. He could succeed as long as not many people stood on Suzimo's side. "Disciples of Zephyr Thunder Palace, heed my orders. Kill anyone who dares to stand in my way." Perfected Lord Tianming's killing intent blazed and his glabella glowed brightly. A series of erratic thunderbolts appeared within his palm with a terrifying aura. "Protect the young master. Protect Brother Su." Nian Qi, Lin Xuanji, and the others circled around Suzimo instantly to form a human wall. "Fufu, why do you have to go through the trouble?" Suddenly, Suzimo laughed softly. "I'll give you my storage bag if you want it." Suzimo patted little Fatty who was standing in front of him on the shoulder and gestured for the latter to make way. "Boss?" Little Fatty asked softly with an inquiring look in his eyes. "It's fine, move away." Suzimo nodded calmly with a smile. Everyone exchanged glances and, although hesitant, made a path. Slowly, Suzimo walked out and removed the storage bag on his waist. He looked at Perfected Lord Tianming who was not far away and held it up in the air as he said indifferently, "The storage bag is right here. Come and take it if you want it." Perfected Lord Tianming's pupils constricted slightly. His spirit consciousness had long scanned Suzimo's body multiple times and he could confirm that this lad's blood chi was weak and his spirit energy was depleted. There was definitely no way he could fight any longer. However, what was this lad trying to do? Although Suzimo looked exhausted, there was no hint of panic on his face and he looked calm. He. Perfected Lord Tianming remembered something and sneered, "You sure are scheming, lad. You're trying to lure me in so that you can release your killing move, right? You're way too naive. There's no way you can hide your intentions from me." In reality, even if he were to close in, he would not be in much danger given Suzimo's current condition. However, it did not hurt to be careful. "I'm handing my storage bag over to you and yet you don't even dare to collect it yourself." Suzimo retracted his smile and hung his storage bag on his waist again before saying coldly, "How can you even dream of taking my life given your cowardice? Tianming, let me tell you one thing. Even if I'm completely exhausted, I can still kill you." Chapter 784, Encompassing Blood Chi. Chapter 784, Encompassing Blood Chi. Many cultivators were stunned. Nobody could understand how Suzimo who was seemingly battered could go against a nascent soul. Suzimo walked slowly towards Perfected Lord Tianming with an overwhelming aura. The bloodstains splattered on the ground formed thin threads that surged towards Suzimo's body in a wild manner, as though they were drawn in by a mysterious power. Suzimo's body seemed to have transformed into a black hole that could consume blood as it drew in the endless power from the fresh blood on the battlefield that had yet to dry up. The aura around Suzimo became increasingly evil. His blood chi was torrential and he was like an Asura that walked out from hell. Many cultivators felt their hearts palpitate and it was as though they were about to be sucked into the black hole when they glanced at it briefly. In fact, Many cultivators felt their bloodlines rumble involuntarily. What sort of powers were these? Everyone was horrified. This is. Perfected Lord Yujun frowned and pondered for a moment. Suddenly, he exclaimed, as though he recalled something, the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. All the cultivators present were shocked when they heard his remark. The Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra was extremely powerful. Countless thousand years ago, a fiend of Asura sect created the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and massacred the masses. He created a blood storm throughout the cultivation world that nobody could stop. This fiend of Asura sect was the notorious Tao Lord Blood Fiend. Back then, Tao Lord Blood Fiend was the titular disciple of Asura sect and was invincible across the same cultivation realm. Although he was not at the Dharma characteristic realm, his combat strength could match conjoint bodies. In fact, many conjoint bodies did not dare to challenge him. The Mahayana realm came above the conjoint body realm. Everybody at the Mahayana realm were all patriarchs that rarely appeared. They were untraceable. During that period of time, although there were many experts that formed alliances to try and kill Tao Lord Bloodfiend, he was crafty and would escape 1,000 miles when he detected the slightest activity. All the experts failed one after another. Later on, there were even rumors that a patriarch of the Immortal sects showed himself to deal with this matter. Although Tao Lord Bloodfiend was severely injured, he managed to escape with the use of a terrifying escape technique. The fact that a Mahayana patriarch appeared to stop a Dharma characteristic Tao Lord was shocking enough, let alone his escape from the patriarch. This matter created an earth-shaking battle between the Immortal and Fiend sects. Tao Lord Bloodfiend's reputation was spread far and wide. Everybody knew that with his endowment, he would definitely become an emperor if he continued cultivating. Furthermore, his combat strength would be comparable to the ancient emperors. He would definitely be a catastrophe to the entire cultivation world and the living masses. Finally, a monk appeared from seclusion. This monk was the titular disciple of Daming Monastery for that generation, Monk Daming. Before he appeared, there was no news of him in the world. In fact, there were few who had heard of him in the entire cultivation world. It was only after Monk Daming appeared and engaged Tao Lord Bloodfiend in a massive battle that ended in a draw that his reputation was spread throughout the world. Later on, the two of them fought countless times, but all of them ended in draws. Finally, an outcome was determined during their fourth fight. The ending of the great battle was a mystery for the entire cultivation world. Nobody knew the exact story. The most famous rumor was that both monster incarnates died. However, neither of their corpses or bones could be found after that fight. 3 of the Mingwang prayer beads were lost during that battle as well. Even until now, the location of 2 of them was unknown. The Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra was lost too. Nobody expected this Fiend Sutra that was the most nefarious and evil during that period of time to appear once again today. Unknowingly, Su Zimo had an innate disdain towards this cultivation technique. He was even more resistant to a secret skill that devoured blood. Up till this point of his cultivation, he had only released it once. It was back in Kang Lang mountain range when he had just obtained Night Spirit. His bloodline was being consumed by Night Spirit and he had no other choice but to release that secret skill in order to survive. When he fought against the god race earlier on and was almost completely exhausted, the thought of using the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra crossed Su Zimo's mind as well. However, firstly, he had always been resistant towards it. Secondly, the blood that flowed through Myriad Phenomenon City was almost entirely from human cultivators. He truly did not wish to consume the blood of people from his own race. But now, the blood that he was devouring was not from humans, but from the Rakshasa and god race. Compared to the tens of thousands of human cultivators, there were only slightly more than 100 Rakshasa and god race beings. However, their bloodlines possessed tremendous power of blood. All of that power was gushing into Su Zimo's body relentlessly. Su Zimo's aura was on the rise. Kill. 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 His eyes became bloodshot and his pupils were almost completely dyed red as the thought of killing filled his mind. He wished for nothing more than to slaughter all the living beings before him. That was the frightening part of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. It could even affect a cultivator's mind and determination. Right now, Su Zimo had both demonic and immortality cultivation, and he had also comprehended the Zen of Buddhism. As such, his mind was clear and his firm determination was unwavering. Even so, he showed signs of turning into a fiend while he channeled the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Blood scars appeared on Su Zimo's face, arms, and chest and extended in all directions in a terrifying manner. Torrential blood chi emanated from Su Zimo with every single step he took towards perfected Lord Tianming. His black hair was gradually dyed red and danced in midair while the blood shade in his eyes deepened. Perfected Lord Tianming felt his scalp prickle and hairs stand on end at the sight of Su Zimo in that state. A tremendous pressure gushed over. Even Little Fatty and the others who surrounded Su Zimo initially retreated with fearful eyes, let alone him. Fiend, don't you dare be insolent. Perfected Lord Tianming mustered his courage and hollered. His glabella flashed and he pointed forward, shooting a blinding thunderbolt from his finger onto Su Zimo's head. However, before the thunderbolt struck, it was dispersed by the blood chi around Su Zimo. Not good. Perfected Lord Tianming grit his teeth and a conflicted look flashed through his eyes. However, he made a decision instantly and turned to flee. He would have died countless times if he was not so decisive. Since he wanted to escape, he had to flee with all his might and not hesitate. Perfected Lord Tianming clearly knew that even with the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, Su Zimo merely recovered his power of bloodline. Su Zimo's spirit and demonic energies were both expended and there was no way he could catch up to him. However, he did not get careless and released Zephyr Thunder Escape. Perfected Lord Tianming rode on Zephyr Thunder and vanished from the spot as he fled into the distance. You're still trying to escape. Su Zimo's voice sounded, chilling to the bones. When the word still sounded, the both of them were at least 1,000 feet apart. When the word trying sounded, the both of them were less than 500 feet apart. By the time the final word sounded, perfected Lord Tianming could even feel Su Zimo's breath. It was a breath with a hint of blood stench. He was close by. Perfected Lord Tianming's eyes widened and he suddenly recalled something. Rumors had it that within the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, there was a fearsome blood escape technique. Could it be? Before that thought was finished, an encompassing blood chi had already engulfed him. Chapter 785 Reward for the Number 1. Chapter 785 Reward for the Number 1. Green Thunder Armor. Perfected Lord Tianming's eyes widened and he roared as he channeled his essence spirit wildly. Dharmic powers surged and rays of green-colored thunderbolts sizzled across the surface of his body in a blinding manner. At that moment, the blood chi had surged over and engulfed his body entirely. Outsiders could merely see a massive blood mist that rumbled in midair. It was grisly scarlet. Green thunderbolts could be seen faintly flashing from within the blood mist. However, nobody could see the figures of both people within. The green thunder armor released by perfected Lord Tianming was a secret skill from the heaven-grade cultivation technique, the Green Thunder Manual. It made use of dharmic powers to create an armor of thunder around the surface of one's body to defend against harm. It was a cultivation technique passed down by the Thunder Emperor and was extremely powerful. Coupled with the fact that the power of thunder had an extreme young nature and was tough, it was the most effective in countering evil and demons. Perfected Lord Tianming should be the one with an advantage in a clash of power as such. However, that was not the case. Crackle. There was a jarring sound. The glow of the green thunder dimmed rapidly when it collided against the rich blood chi. One after another, streams of scarlet blood chi crawled across perfected Lord Tianming's thunder armor vest endlessly like spirit snakes and penetrated every single opening. The Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra was a cultivation technique of the evil fiends. However, right now, Su Zimo was using the power of his bloodline. Even the god race of the primordial 9 races could not match his bloodline. Ah! Perfected Lord Tianming howled. He could clearly sense the blood within his body rumbling in an uncontrollable manner. His bloodline was expanding. His heart raced and seemed like it was about to explode. His bloodline was about to burst forth from his body. Legend has it that back in the past, when Tao Lord Bloodfiend cultivated to his peak, All he had to do was open his mouth slightly and weaker cultivators would have their essence blood devoured in the blink of an eye helplessly. It was extremely terrifying. Even the ancient emperors might not be comparable to the Tao Lord Bloodfiend in terms of cultivation comprehension of one's bloodline. Poof! The stalemate did not last for long before perfected Lord Tianming turned into a ball of blood. His essence blood was drawn out from his body completely and fused within the blood mist in midair. His essence spirit was destroyed instantly with the rush of the blood qi. It was a true annihilation of his body and spirit. It's over. Perfected Lord Yu Jun and the other two sensed it the moment perfected Lord Tianming died. The fight for the phenomenon ranking this time round was filled with turmoils and bloodshed. Finally, everything came to an end. The Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra has reappeared once more. I truly don't know if this is a blessing or misfortune for Tianhuang mainland, Monkyan Lu sighed internally. Perfected Lord Yu Jun turned over as well. Both of them could see the worry in the other's eyes. The blood mist in midair swiveled slowly and formed a gigantic vortex. Finally, everything converged into Su Zimo's body and eventually vanished. Su Zimo stood in midair and his blood-colored long hair danced. His eyes were bloodshot and the murderous, evil aura he emanated was shuddering. Many cultivators merely glanced at his bloodshot eyes and felt their blood qis rumble as their hearts pounded. Right now, it was clear that Su Zimo's mental state was affected and he might veer onto the wrong path. If he were to conduct a massacre right now, nobody would be able to stop him. Silence engulfed Myriad Phenomenon City. Out of more than 50,000 cultivators, nobody dared to speak. They were afraid that they might trigger Su Zimo with the slightest activity and get themselves killed. After a period of time, Su Zimo's bloodshot eyes faded and his blood-colored hair returned to normal as well. He descended slowly and swept his cold gaze across the crowd not far away. The cultivators who were discussing whether Su Zimo should be killed earlier on had their heads slumped and did not dare to meet his gaze. Previously, there were quite a number among them who even encircled and attacked Little Fatty and the others. If Su Zimo wanted to make them pay for it, none of them would be able to escape. Many cultivators were jittery and had frightful expressions. After a long silence, Su Zimo slowly said, "There have been too many people who have died today. I don't wish to kill any more, all of you can leave." Many cultivators left hurriedly in relief. Right now, the power of Su Zimo's inner core and golden core has dried up completely. However, his bloodline was more than half recovered after what he devoured. The feeling of control was nice. In fact, Su Zimo had an urge to devour and refine all the bloodlines of the cultivators who had died in Myriad Phenomenon City into his body. It was an extremely frightening thought. If he could not control it, there was a chance that he could turn into a murderous fiend. This Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra is truly evil. I must not use it anymore in the future, Su Zimo thought to himself. The death of perfected Lord Tianming meant that the catastrophe of Myriad Phenomenon City had ended completely. The cultivators who survived gathered with their sect mates and consumed elixirs and medicine. Some of the itinerant cultivators went their own ways. They did not leave the city but instead found quiet spots to rest and recuperate. Brother Su, fellow Taoists. Lin Xuanji cupped his fists towards Su Zimo, Little Fatty, and the others. Everyone is severely injured right now. If you leave Myriad Phenomenon City at this time, chances are you will come across ferocious beasts that wander around the ancient battlefield. Please rest well in the city first before making further plans. All right. Su Zimo contemplated briefly and agreed to it. With this, there was no longer a need for him to stay in Myriad Phenomenon City. However, he was in no rush and might as well recuperate here as he awaited Night Spirit's return. Right. Lin Xuanji thought for a moment and continued, "You're number 1 for the Golden Core Phenomenon ranking this time round. There's rewards for you." Normally speaking, the cultivators of Enigma Palace would disseminate the rewards for the cultivators based on their rankings after the phenomenon ranking was confirmed. However, too many things had happened for the fight of the phenomenon ranking this time round. Although there was an outcome between Su Zimo and Di Yin's fight, it caused a fight between the nascent souls as well. Furthermore, the two of them killed their way out of Myriad Phenomenon City one after the other. By the time Suzumo returned, the Rakshasa and God race had already arrived and there was no chance for him to receive his rewards. Fame was secondary to Suzumo when he fought for the top of the phenomenon ranking. The rewards were the main draw. The rewards for the number 1 of the phenomenon ranking were extremely enticing. There was even a chance for him to get his hands on heaven-grade cultivation techniques or carnate dharmic weapons. Suzumo would definitely advance to the nascent soul realm if nothing untoward happened after he left the ancient battlefield. Even at this moment, he did not possess a carnate dharmic weapon that belonged to him. The old monk at the Dragon Burial Valley told him that if he could obtain a carnate dharmic weapon when he was at nascent soul realm, he could refine it to become his destiny dharmic weapon. The power and level of the dharmic weapon would rise alongside his own cultivation realm. However, its grade would not change and would always be at carnate grade. Although Suzumo looked forward to the rewards as the number 1 of the phenomenon ranking, he knew that now was not the time for it. Myriad Phenomenon City was a tragic sight with rivers of blood and corpses strewn everywhere. Many cultivators were severely injured and perfected Lord Yu-jun had even lost an arm. There's no rush. Suzumo replied, we'll talk about it after Senior Yu-jun recovers. I'll stay in the city for a period of time. That's good. Lin Xuanji smiled and nodded. The rewards for the number 1 of the phenomenon ranking were extraordinary and required a nascent soul of Enigma Palace to channel his essence spirit using Enigma Palace's secret skill to activate the ancient phenomenon Stele. The ancient phenomenon Stele had a dimension of its own. Within it were countless mystical treasures, weapons and cultivation techniques. The sort of treasures one would obtain would depend on his fortune and fate. Chapter 786, Nyan Chi's Identity. Chapter 786, Nyan Chi's Identity. Suzumo's group settled down in the Grand Hall of Enigma Palace for the time being. Everyone was rather severely injured and thankfully, their conditions turned better after they consumed the elixirs provided by Xiaoning and rested for a couple of days. It would take around a month for them to recover fully. Suzumo's body was pierced by the sharp thorns of the Rakshasa race's chain and his right arm was severed by the God race leader. His stamina was completely spent after his consecutive battles. However, it merely took a few days for him to mostly heal up and the injuries left by the sharp thorn chain were completely recovered and scabs had even formed. His severed right arm was joined together again. A few more days and he would be perfectly fine as before. His regeneration speed was something that even the 3 nascent souls could not match. Will anything happen to Night Spirit? It had been a few days since Night Spirit chased after the remaining Rakshasas but he had yet to return. Worried, Ching Ching could not help but ask. Don't worry, he's fine. Suzumo smiled gently. There was probably nothing in this ancient battlefield that could hurt Night Spirit. Although there were less than 10 Rakshasas that escaped, all of them fled in different directions, it would indeed take some effort to kill them off completely. The image of Night Spirit's final exchange against the Rakshasa leader flashed through Suzumo's mind and he fell into deep thought. The Rakshasa leader seemed to have discovered something at the final, critical moment and merely managed to utter 2 words before he was killed by Night Spirit. What was Night Spirit's secret? What was his relationship with the Rakshasa race? Suddenly, Suzumo's heart stirred and he raised his head. A figure appeared outside the door like a phantom, leaving behind a series of after-images in his wake. He entered the grand hall without having to step fully onto the ground with his footsteps. It was Night Spirit who was gone for several days. Night Spirit looked well-worn and tired. From the looks of things, he must not have rested for the past few days. Is everything fine now? Suzumo advanced and asked softly. Night Spirit nodded. He looked at Suzumo's eyes and avoided the latter's gaze. It seemed as though he wanted to speak but held himself back. He was conflicted internally. Honesty should have been a must between brothers, but his secret was way too shocking. He did not know what might change if he revealed it. Suzumo could read Night Spirit's mind and gave a casual smile before patting the latter on the shoulder. Nothing can stand between us, you don't have to feel troubled. We'll speak again when you feel like you're ready. Yes. Night Spirit felt a burden lifted off his shoulders. Monkey, The spirit tiger and everyone else gathered around with concerned expressions. However, all of them had a tacit understanding and did not press him about his secret. Young master. Right then, Nyan Qi arrived beside Su Zimo and bowed deeply towards him. Su Zimo flicked his sleeves and helped her stand with a smile. You've already joined Ethereal Peak, so we can be considered as sect mates. There's no need for such ceremonial acts. Nyan Qi shook her head hurriedly and said with a serious expression. No, that won't do. Even though I've joined Ethereal Peak, you are still my benefactor, young master. She paused for a moment and her eyes flickered. Pouting her lips, she said with slight embarrassment, furthermore, I'm your little maidservant. It's only normal for me to greet you as such. Previously, Su Zimo hid in the capital of Great Ju to avoid the pursuit of the dragon race. There, he founded Mo Spirit Weapon Workshop and adopted Nyan Qi. She resided in Mo Spirit Weapon Workshop for more than 2 years during that period of time and assisted Su Zimo with chores and tidying up, staying as a maidservant. There were not many people that knew about it, and Monkey and the others were shocked. The spirit tiger seemed to have thought of something as he stood in a corner and smirked foolishly at Su Zimo, making eyes towards the latter. Little Fox gripped her fists slightly and looked at Nyan Qi with a nervous expression. Her body was tense and there was even a hint of hostility in the depths of her eyes. A fragrance wafted over. Demoness Ji closed in beside Su Zimo with a pitiable expression as she begrudged, I wonder if you need more maidservants by your side, young Master Su. I'm willing to be one too. Cut it out, what are you doing? Su Zimo rolled his eyes and replied curtly. He could naturally tell that Demoness Ji was teasing him. I'm sorry, young master. Nyan Qi pinched the hem of her clothes and said softly with a lowered head, I did not tell the truth and hid my identity from you. Back in the capital of Great Ju, Su Zimo had already asked Nyan Qi about her background. She merely said that her parents were dead and she was homeless without elaborating more about anything else. Su Zimo did not press her further either. Su Zimo waved it off. Your identity is unique, so it's only normal for you to hide it. What's her identity? Shi Jian was confused and looked at little Fatty before asking softly. There's no wonder why you're silly, Jian. Are you foolish or what? Little Fatty face-palmed himself and lamented. In reality, although nobody mentioned it, everyone present was sharp and could roughly guess. Although there were only 7 people from the god race that arrived, the fact that they captured Nyan Qi alive instead of killing her was an issue to begin with. She was extremely beautiful with a smooth complexion and exquisite features. A single look at her was enough to surprise anyone. However, the true problem arose when Nyan Qi was compared to the 7 god race beings. Her bearings were way too similar to theirs. The only difference was that the god race possessed golden hair that fell like a waterfall while Nyan Qi's hair was yellow and withered. However, Su Zimo knew. He knew that the difference was non-existent as well. Previously, in the battle at Ethereal Peak, when Nyan Qi was pushed to desperation, a mysterious power awakened within her and her combat strength exploded. Her initially withered, yellow hair turned silky smooth as well. That was the only way many questions were resolved. It was why Nyan Qi was able to cultivate even without a spirit root. Furthermore, her cultivation speed was extremely fast and she possessed naturally immense strength. It was why she looked the same after more than 20 years and still resembled the young girl from the past. It was because she carried the blood of the god race in her body. The god race had an extremely long lifespan. 20 years was almost negligible in the long lifespan of the god race, and that was why she did not have much changes. Back when Night Spirit first met Nyan Qi, he behaved unusually and ran around her to sniff wildly, as though he had discovered something. On hindsight, Night Spirit must have already smelled the aura of the god race from Nyan Qi despite the fact that he was only a cub. Nyan Qi's gaze dimmed as she said softly, however, there are some things that I did not lie to you about, young master. It's true that my parents are dead. My mother is from the god race while my father is a human. Half of the blood that flows through my body is from the god race. Her tone was calm as she explained, but there was a deep hint of sorrow. Because of my impure bloodline, I'm considered as someone from a foreign race within the god race and was an outcast. That was the reason why I escaped and wandered outside homeless. That was the case until I met you, young master. It was not hard to imagine how the young girl before them must have suffered in the hands of the god race without the protection of her parents. Everything is in the past now. Suzimo consoled her softly with a tender gaze. You only have to remember that from now on, if you don't wish to return, nobody will be able to force you to. Nyan Chi pursed her cherry lips when she heard that and her eyes reddened. She almost cried out. Everyone understood what they had to do and dispersed when they saw that. To think that she's from the god race. The golden lion looked shocked and murmured as he walked away, first is truly strong to be able to have a maidservant from the god race. That was one of the primordial 9 races. How domineering were they in Myriad Phenomenon City just a couple of days ago? Who would have thought that Suzimo already had an underling from the god race more than 20 years ago? Chapter 787, Future Plans. Chapter 787, Future Plans. Suzimo wiped away the tears on Nyan Chi's face gently and handed her a storage bag with a smile. Don't cry anymore, here's a storage bag for you. He sounded as though he was coaxing a child. Nyan Chi was both embarrassed and worked up, but she could not contain her curiosity. She received the storage bag and opened it while asking, "What's inside?" "Ah," she exclaimed when she saw what was inside and raised her head to look at Suzimo perplexedly. The storage bag was densely packed with spirit weapons. There were even countless bottles of elixirs. Not only that, Nyan Chi even caught sight of Suzimo's blood quencher, coiling dragon seal, moon concealment bow, black gold arrows and 27 supreme-grade flying swords that had lightning streaks coiled around them. There's more than 12,000 superior-grade spirit weapons, 432 supreme-grade spirit weapons, 21 perfect-grade spirit weapons, 5 carnate spirit weapons and 10,800 various elixirs. Suzimo said, "Take this storage bag along with you when you return to the sect and hand it over to Senior Crane." Most of the weapons were obtained by him when he annihilated the Glass Palace faction after he entered the ancient battlefield. Ah! Nyan Chi was a little stunned and was unable to react. Suzimo explained, "I'm about to advance to the nascent soul realm. Although these weapons are precious, I no longer have a use for them. After the battle at Ethereal Peak, the other 4 major sects suffered great losses. Now that Senior Crane has advanced to the Dharma characteristic realm, the rise of Ethereal Peak is only a matter of time, and these are the items that we are lacking right now." This was a vast fortune. If anyone else knew that Suzimo had given away so many spirit weapons and elixirs casually, their eyeballs would probably pop out. There were not only large amounts of weapons and elixirs, there were also 5 carnate spirit weapons. This would set up a foundation that would match even upper sects and aristocratic family. It won't not be an exaggeration to claim that Suzimo could establish his own sect given his current capabilities and treasures in his possession. Ethereal Peak had been established for thousands of years and was considered as a major sect within the Great Zhou dynasty. However, they were nothing much compared to the entire North region and Tianhuang mainland. The foundation of Ethereal Peak was way inferior compared to the 108 upper sects, let alone other super sects. The boost to Ethereal Peak will be clear if they could obtain these spirit weapons and elixirs. Nyan Chi was disappointed and asked with raised brows, "Young master, are you not intending to return?" Suzimo had a conflicted expression as he replied, "I won't be able to return to the sect for the time being." He was now at odds with Glass Palace and he would only bring upon an apocalyptic disaster for Ethereal Peak if he returned. In reality, he had already expected this situation the moment he declared war upon Glass Palace. He no longer had any attachments to the secular realm after Su Hong's demise and had long prepared to leave the North region. The Tianhuang mainland was vast and he could take the opportunity to explore it. At the very least, he had to possess the strength to kill Dao Bing Xianyu by the time he returned to the North region. Previously, Dao Bing Xianyu beat him down to the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley at the battle in the Great Qian Ruins. Thereafter, Su Hong's death and the annihilation of the Yang country were all related to Dao Bing Xianyu. Coupled with the grudge of his severed wrist and crushed cause, there was no way Suzimo was going to let that person off. Nyan Chi sighed gently. Actually, Master has already expected this. She said that given your character, you will definitely choose not to return so that we won't be implicated. Su Zimo was silent. A moment later, he said slowly, however, there will definitely come a day when I will return. I will return with glory righteously. Ethereal Peak was good to him and everyone within had treated him well. Otherwise, Su Zimo would not have been so generous to donate all the elixirs and spirit weapons he collected, including Bloodquencher and the coiling dragon seal. Yes. Nyan Chi nodded. She also said that Ethereal Peak was going to get stronger and stronger. There will definitely come a day when the sect will be able to protect our own disciples so that they won't have to flee for their lives. If they had not sensed that the sect was going to be destroyed, how would Xian Yi and the other leaders have allowed paragons such as Little Fatty, Ji Chengtian, and the others to leave 20 years ago? If Bloodquencher and the coiling dragon seal are all in the storage bag, what are you going to use, young master? Won't you be in danger if you encounter Di Yin without weapons on hand? Nyan Chi was worried. Su Zimo replied with a cool gaze, if I meet Di Yin again, I'll kill him with my bare hands. He was not exaggerating. If Su Zimo released his inner core and golden core along with many trump cards without restrictions, he could suppress Di Yin even if he was barehanded. As for weapons, he had the bronze square tripod and mystic magnet mountain in his storage bag. Those two weapons alone could defend against thousands of weapons. Furthermore, the reward for the golden core phenomenon ranking would be disseminated soon. If he was lucky, he might get his hands on a suitable dharmic weapon. Nyan Chi pondered for a moment and asked again, where are you intending to head to, young master? Su Zimo replied, I haven't settled on anywhere yet. In truth, for the past few days, Su Zimo, Monkey, the spirit tiger and everyone else already had a rough sense of direction. They wanted to make use of the ancient battlefield to leave the North region and explore the demon regions of Tianhuang mainland. Su Zimo's identity was sensitive and he would be watched by countless people after the battle in Myriad Phenomenon City. If he brought Monkey and the others who were demon beasts with thick demonic chi along into the cultivation world, they would definitely attract endless trouble. The best method was for them to enter the demon regions. Once they cultivate their essence spirits in the demon regions, Monkey, the spirit tiger and the others would be able to advance to become fiend demons. At that time, they would be able to absorb the demonic chi around them and it would be difficult for them to be discovered when they return to the cultivation world. Monkey and the spirit tiger had resided in one of the 8 demon regions, the Wild Lion Ridge, for a full 20 years. They even qualified for 2 positions to enter the ancient battlefield and had quite a bit of experience. Now that the 7 of them siblings were gathered together, it was not going to be difficult for them to make a name for themselves in the demon regions. Everyone else aside, Monkey was particularly excited about this. His dream was always to be the king of a mountain and reign over a part of the world. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. During this period of time, many cultivators recuperated within Myriad Phenomenon City and their injuries were mostly healed. The wounds of those with severe injuries had stabilized as well. This day, Lin Xuanji came knocking with a smile. Brother Su, let's go. The ancient phenomenon Steely is opening up today. Let's see what rewards there are for the phenomenon ranking this time round. All right. Su Zimo's eyes lit up and he nodded his head. He was looking forward to this. Many cultivators came forth from their respective seclusions and headed towards the Myriad Phenomenon Peak. Although the cultivators on the phenomenon ranking were the only ones who would get the rewards, many cultivators wanted to join the crowd and see if any carnate dharmic weapons or heaven-grade cultivation techniques would appear. Perfected Lord Yu Jun, Perfected Lord Luo Shui and Monk Yin Lu had arrived before the Myriad Phenomenon Peak long ago. Scabs had already formed on the injuries of Perfected Lord Luo Shui and Monk Yin Lu after a month and there wouldn't be any sequelae either. However, Perfected Lord Yu Jun was severely affected by the loss of his arm. There was no hope for him to regeneration his severed limb unless he cultivated to the conjoint body realm. The conjoint body realm was way too far ahead. The path of cultivation was arduous and treacherous, one could lose their life with a single mistake. How many people could guarantee that they would be able to advance to the conjoint body realm throughout history? Cultivators on the phenomenon ranking, Come over to where I am to collect your rewards. Perfected Lord Yu Jun's voice carried a hint of weakness. The damage on his body was too great with the loss of his arm. Only the top 10 cultivators on the phenomenon ranking were qualified to select their treasures from the ancient phenomenon stele. The rewards for the other cultivators were disseminated by cultivators of Enigma Palace. Chapter 788, Great Day Rulai Sutra. Chapter 788, Great Day Rulai Sutra. The Golden Core phenomenon ranking this time round was different from the past. More than half the cultivators on the ranking had died. Apart from some weapons and cultivation techniques as rewards, the remaining cultivators obtained many soul-nourishing blood ginseng as well. It was a necessary expendable item after they advanced to the nascent soul and cultivated their essence spirits. A moment later, Su Zimo, Ming Zhan, Pang Yu and the other cultivators in the top 10 of the phenomenon ranking arrived at the foot of the myriad phenomenon peak. Perfected Lord Yu Jun took a deep breath and conjured multiple hand seals before tapping his glabella gently with his forefinger. His glabella shone and a ray of his spirit consciousness shot forward onto the ancient phenomenon stele. Boom! The ancient stele vibrated violently as though it was about to be uprooted. Immediately after, the ancient phenomenon stele emitted rays of light that scattered onto Su Zimo and the others. It was musky and hazy. It was a curious sensation. Su Zimo felt as though the ancient phenomenon stele was alive. It was as though a life was awakened within the ancient stele and it was staring at him. A mysterious power cruised through every single corner of his body like a stream of water. It was gentle and calm. The life seemed as though it wanted to see through everything there was to Su Zimo. The other few people experienced the same sensation. However, not long after, the light on Ming Zhan and the others dissipated. Thereafter, one or two items that glowed brightly would appear above their heads. An ancient lantern with a bronze-green shade hovered over Ming Zhan's head. The flame within the lantern was extinguished and yet, the lantern's body shone with a mysterious glow. A yellow scroll was beside the ancient lantern. Green lantern, yellow scroll. The yellow scroll was a cultivation technique secret skill, but nobody could see its contents and what grade it was. However, 6 dharmic patterns could faintly be seen on the green lantern. It was a carnate dharmic weapon. Many cultivators gripped their fists tightly with fervent gazes. Everyone was moved by the appearance of a carnate dharmic weapon. However, everyone knew that none of them was a match for Ming Zhan the young monk despite his unassuming appearance. Right now, he was a part of Dharpamkara Monastery and was protected by Monk Yin Lu. Furthermore, he was also someone on Su Zimo's side. Even without those, Ming Zhan's strength was enough to shock everyone present. Well, Monk Yin Lu nodded repeatedly. The green lantern was just right for Ming Zhan and the yellow scroll seemed like it was an extraordinary item as well. A long blade with a sheath appeared above Dugu Jian's head and a manual of a sword technique. The handle and sheath of the sword were both pitch black. If one did not focus their gaze, they might mistake it to be a black rod. It seems like there are 6 dharmic patterns. Indeed, it's another carnate dharmic weapon. The rewards for the phenomenon ranking this time round are way too awesome. There are 2 carnate dharmic weapons already. In the previous phenomenon rankings, it was already quite amazing if there was a single carnate dharmic weapon among the rewards. Hurry, take a look at that gigantic spear above Pang Yu's head. It's another carnate dharmic weapon. Unlike Ming Zhan and Dugu Jian, Pang Yu's rewards did not include any cultivation technique or secret skill. There was only a single weapon. Even so, it was enough for outsiders to be envious. Ha 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 ha. Pang Yu burst into laughter and reached out to grab the gigantic spear above his head. His figure sank the moment he caught the gigantic spear. It was heavy. The gigantic spear was around 30 feet long and the tip of its spear was 2-pronged and shone with a cold glint. Mysterious patterns were etched on the body of the spear and it blended well with the spear tip to give off a domineering aura. For ordinary cultivators, it would be impossible to utilize a gigantic spear that was this clumsy and heavy. It was only suitable for a cultivator that was as muscular and massive as Pang Yu. Many cultivators turned towards Suzimo instinctively after the birth of 3 carnate dharmic weapons. Strange. Why hasn't the light on Suzimo's body dissipated? Suzimo's eyes were tightly shut and he was motionless. The water current from the ancient phenomenon steely washed through his body time and again. Suzimo had a feeling that the life within the ancient phenomenon steely seemed to be trying its best to scan his body and uncover his secrets, but it could not do it. An unknown period of time passed. Finally, the light on Suzimo's body dissipated gradually. 2 items hovered above his head as well. However, both of them seemed antiquated and did not glow at all. One of them was an ancient book. It should be a cultivation technique or secret skill, but nobody could tell. The other was a bare green lotus platform that was incomparably dark without any patterns. It was so battered that nobody would bother to pick it up if it was thrown at the side of a road. What are those? I've got no idea. They have no dharmic patterns either, so they must be trash. The rewards for the phenomenon ranking this time round have already been extraordinary with the birth of 3 carnate dharmic weapons. There can't be any other good things appearing. Suzimo's luck sure is pathetic. Many cultivators discussed softly. That doesn't make sense. Lin Xuanji glared at the 2 items that hovered in midair and frowned, murmuring slightly, "This lad managed to take away quite a bit of the dragon vein back in the astral dragon sputum lair, and he is imbued with great fortune. This shouldn't be the case, right? Could that cultivation technique be way too shocking?" Out of curiosity, Lin Xuanji headed forward and asked softly, "What is that cultivation technique?" Suzimo retrieved the ancient book from midair and flipped it open gently. For words were written on the first page, Great Day Rulai Sutra. Lin Xuanji was stunned when he saw the 4 words. Suzimo's pupils constricted slightly. As the current generation's successor of Enigma Palace, Lin Xuanji had a vast knowledge of things and naturally knew the origin of that cultivation technique. Suzimo resided at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley for 20 years and learned the skills of Fahua and Daming monasteries. Furthermore, he recited sutras, paid respect to Buddha and comprehended Zen daily. As such, he knew quite a lot of things about the Buddhist monasteries as well. In the ancient era when the path of cultivation was first civilized, the Buddhist monasteries were not part of the major factions that they were known as today. The Great Day Rulai Sutra was a mystic classic of the Buddhist monasteries back in the ancient era and was a heaven-grade cultivation technique for refining one's spirit. It was said that when cultivated to its peak, this cultivation technique could create the supreme Dharma characteristic of the Buddhist monasteries, the Rulai Dharmic body. A single arm raise could destroy the world and subdue fiend. Suzimo put the mystic classic of the Buddhist monasteries away in his storage bag without emotions. Even if any other heaven-grade cultivation techniques were revealed, many cultivators would covet them, let alone the Great Day Rulai Sutra. Right now, coupled with the Purple Thunder manual that was in his storage bag, Suzimo possessed 2 heaven-grade cultivation techniques meant for spirit refinement. Given such conditions, the progression of his cultivation path would require much less effort after he advanced to the nascent soul realm. Suzimo raised his head and looked at the battered green lotus platform in midair with furrowed brows. He was the number 1 of the phenomenon ranking. There was no way the ancient phenomenon Steely was going to give him any casual trash item. However, he could not tell what was special about that green lotus platform. Suzimo's heart skipped a beat as he turned towards the 3 nascent souls who were not far away. Perfected Lord Yu Jun turned to look at Monk Yin Lu beside him and asked deeply, "If I'm not wrong, this green lotus platform should be that legendary object, right?" "It should be." Monk Yin Lu had a stern expression as he nodded. Chapter 789 Legend of the Immortal World. Chapter 789 Legend of the Immortal World. Suzimo asked, "Seniors, may I ask you guys what this is?" "Creation Green Lotus." 3 words sounded from Monk Yin Lu's mouth. Suzimo's heart skipped a beat. There were only brief descriptions of the Creation Green Lotus recorded within the Sutra Chamber at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. Suzimo only knew that the Creation Green Lotus was once an emperor weapon of the Buddhist monasteries. Emperor weapons were the destiny dharmic treasures of emperors themselves and possessed the might and force of an emperor. They were even stronger than the dharma treasures used by patriarchs of the Mahayana realm. However, why was a legendary emperor weapon in this state? The lotus platform was old and dark without any life. In fact, it was barren without any petals on it. Monkey Lu could see the confusion in Suzimo's eyes and explained, "The creation green lotus before you has withered, that's why it's in such a state." Withered? Suzimo was even more puzzled. How could weapons be withered? Monkey Lu continued, "The creation green lotus has to be nourished by one's essence spirit to trigger its life force so that it can regrow its petals and lotus seed. Legend has it that there are 9 grades to the creation green lotus, and at its highest level, it is called the grade 9 creation green lotus. Of course, there are also legends that state that the highest grade is 12. Monkey Lu paused for a moment before shaking his head. Naturally, it doesn't matter whether it is 9 or 12. The reason for that is because the highest graded creation green lotus that has ever appeared in Tianhuang mainland was only at the 8th grade. How many grades is this current lotus seat? Suzimo could not help but ask. Gradeless. Monkey Lu smiled. Suzimo smiled as well when he heard that. How could this green lotus be graded when it was already withered? What do the grades actually mean and how do you differentiate them? Suzimo was filled with curiosity and asked again. The creation green lotus's life force will be triggered when it is nourished by one's essence spirit. When it is filled, it will undergo a creation process and experience a reincarnation cycle. Monkey Lu explained, the grades refer to how many times a creation green lotus has reincarnated. Each time it reincarnates, it will create a layer of 9 green lotus petals and 9 lotus seeds. That's the grade 1 creation green lotus. When its growth reaches its limits, the grade 1 creation green lotus will undergo a second reincarnation and a second layer of petals with 9 new lotus seeds will be created on the lotus seat, so on and so forth. Suzimo roughly understood. The simplest way of determining the grade of a creation green lotus was through looking at the layers of petals on the lotus seat. The grade 9 creation green lotus would have 9 layers of petals. The density of the stacked petals could be imagined as they lined up densely within with the smallest petals deepest before blossoming outward with the larger petals outside. Monkey Lu pondered for a moment and continued, at grade 4, the creation green lotus can match a carnate perfected Lord dharmic weapon. At grade 5, it can go against a void reversion dharmic weapon. The creation green lotus itself possesses mystical power which is something that many carnate dharmic weapons cannot match. Even carnate dharmic weapons could not match it. That was a remarkable appraisal. Suzimo looked at the battered green lotus seat in his palm and a blaze was ignited within his heart. This was even more precious than carnate dharmic weapons. Highs. Suddenly, Monkey Lu sighed. Actually, I don't know whether this creation green lotus is a blessing or curse for you. Suzimo was stunned. How could a treasure as such be a curse? Monkey Lu continued, for the creation green lotus to grow, the nourishment from one's essence spirit is required. Furthermore, the power of essence spirit that it requires is extremely immense and nobody can handle it. Throughout history, the creation green lotus has been passed down and moved between dozens of paragons. However, most of them ended up being burdened by it. Gradually, nobody wanted to touch it anymore. When a cultivator uses his essence spirit to nourish the green lotus, it was only natural for his cultivation progress to stagnate. That's the reason why the highest graded creation green lotus in Tianhuang mainland is only grade 8. Monkey Lu continued, throughout history, the ancient Buddha emperor was the only one who nurtured the grade 8 creation green lotus thanks to his unparalleled wisdom, determination, and boldness. This is an emperor weapon that was recorded in the ancient manuals. Even with the power of the Buddha emperor, he did not dare to attempt to grow it to grade 9. Suzimo had a calm expression. He was not worried about that. Right now, he was in possession of 2 heaven-grade cultivation techniques meant for the spirit, the Purple Thunder Manual and Great Day Rulai Sutra. Be it in terms of cultivation speed or the purity of his essence spirit, he would definitely be the strongest in history. Su Zimo refused to believe that he could not refine the creation green lotus even with 2 heaven-grade cultivation techniques. The reason why this creation green lotus is so mystical is because it isn't something from Tianhuang mainland. Slowly, perfected Lord Yujun said, "Legend has it that it came from the immortal world." Su Zimo was in the midst of contemplating how he should nurture the creation green lotus. At the mention of immortal world, his heart skipped a beat and he spun around, asking hurriedly, "What's the immortal world? Where is it? How do I get there?" This was the first time Su Zimo had heard of the words immortal world. Immediately, he thought about Dai Yu. Before she left, she once said that they were not from the same world. Along his path of cultivation, Su Zimo gradually realized that Dai Yu must have headed to a vast world of another level. Furthermore, there was a high chance that the world was the legendary ethereal immortal world. Perfected Lord Yujun gave a bitter laugh. "There's no way a cultivator of my level knows where's the immortal world or how I should get there." Su Zimo gradually calmed down and realized that his question was rather abrupt. The immortal world is only the way the immortal sects refer to it. As though he could read Su Zimo's mind, perfected Lord Yujun elaborated, "Those of the fiend sects call it the fiend world and those of the Buddhist monasteries call it the pure land." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. In that case, wouldn't those from the demon race call it the demon world? In any case, there is definitely another world as such outside of Tianhuang mainland, somewhere where experts are abundant and immortals and fiends tread. Many people refer to it differently and some people just call it the upper world. It is said that a portion of the ancient emperors have ascended to the upper world as well. Su Zimo's heart could not help but race at the mention of that. He gulped and tried his best to compose himself before asking slowly, "Senior, may I ask if you've heard of something called the Great Wilderness within the upper world?" Great Wilderness? Perfected Lord Yujun pondered carefully with a lost expression before shaking his head. Su Zimo felt relieved. Perfected Lord Yujun was merely at nascent soul realm and even if he knew anything about the immortal world, it was merely hearsay, he wouldn't be in direct contact with it. Su Zimo believed that as his cultivation realm advanced, he would definitely find out more secrets. The distance between him and Dai Yu would decrease. This creation green lotus is mysterious and possesses unfathomable power. You must be careful if you're using your essence spirit to refine it. Perfected Lord Yujun reminded him, "If you notice anything amiss, don't hesitate and give up on it immediately. Otherwise, it would be too late for regrets if you're burdened by it and sapped dry completely." "Thank you for your reminder, Senior." Su Zimo expressed his gratitude while his mind was filled with the legends about the immortal world. Chapter 790 New Journey. Chapter 790 New Journey. "Zimo, there are some soul-nourishing blood ginsengs in this storage bag. Keep them with you." Perfected Lord Yujun handed Su Zimo a storage bag and Su Zimo did not decline. All the cultivators on the phenomenon ranking received rewards like the soul-nourishing blood ginseng. The higher their ranking, the more the quantity they received. Mingzhen's storage bag already contained thousands of soul-nourishing blood ginseng. If nothing went wrong, that large amount of soul-nourishing blood ginseng would suffice Mingzhen until he cultivated to the void reversion realm. This was also one of the reasons why many paragons wanted to obtain a ranking on the phenomenon ranking. The rewards were truly enticing. Su Zimo opened his storage bag and gave it a quick glance. He could not help but feel stunned with a look of surprise in his eyes. There were way too many soul-nourishing blood ginsengs in his storage bag. At once glance, there were at least 60,000 ginsengs densely packed together. Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. Although the rewards for the number one of the phenomenon ranking were immense, there was no way it could be this much. Su Zimo looked at perfected Lord Yujun. Just as he was about to speak, the latter's voice sounded in his mind. "There's no need to decline, Zimo. You deserve the soul-nourishing blood ginsengs." Perfected Lord Yujun sent a voice transmission. If you hadn't stepped in to save the paragons from the catastrophe, few of them would have been able to survive, let alone all of these worldly items. The demon beast friends you have are great and honorable. It's all thanks to their help this time round as well. All of them will require soul-nourishing blood ginsengs for their cultivations too. Their portions are included within the storage bag. Demons would cultivate essence spirits after they form their cores as well. However, for the demon race, they refer to it as the yin spirit. Perfected Lord Yujun continued, furthermore, if you are going to refine the creation green lotus, these soul-nourishing blood ginsengs won't even be enough for you to take in fully. Su Zimo nodded and put away the storage bag. Coupled with the spirit-gathering fruit and other soul-nourishing blood ginseng that he had gathered earlier on, he definitely had enough cultivation resources for a period of time in the future. Perfected Lord Yujun asked, "What are your plans after this, Zimo?" "I haven't thought about it yet." Su Zimo replied ambiguously. He had decided earlier on that he wanted to head to one of the 8 demon regions, but he felt that it was awkward to tell Perfected Lord Yujun about it. Perfected Lord Yujun had a conflicted expression and seemed like he wanted to say something but stopped. In truth, in the depths of his heart, he wanted to invite Su Zimo to Enigma Palace. However, Su Zimo's identity was way too unique. Although he held the fort for the Battle of Myriad Phenomenon City and rescued many paragons to leave an eternal reputation, his identity would be questioned forever as well. The image of the gigantic, 100-foot-tall, ancient demon king with a torrential ferocity was etched deeply in the hearts of many cultivators and impossible to erase. The dragon roar he released and the humanoid monster that was filled with green scales was also remembered by everyone. Everything would surely spread through the entire cultivation world when the cultivators who survived returned to Tianhuang mainland. The words of men were enough to destroy bones. How many people would believe it even if he told them that Su Zimo was human? At the end of the day, Perfected Lord Yujun was only a perfected lord at Enigma Palace and he could not make the decision to invite Su Zimo to join Enigma Palace. Rather, there was probably no faction in the cultivation world that would dare to be on Su Zimo's side. That lad was in possession of great treasures. That lad has offended super sects such as Glass Palace and Zephyr Thunder Palace. From this day forth, this young man's situation in the cultivation world would become even more treacherous. Perfected Lord Yujun gazed at the top of Myriad Phenomenon Peak with a deep look in his eyes as he lamented, "If you're able to reach the peak one day, everything will definitely change." Naturally, Monkey Lu could see the situation Su Zimo was in. He sent the latter a voice transmission in secret with only 2 words, Demon Region. He could only avoid the dangers of the cultivation world temporarily within the demon regions. That was the most suitable path for Su Zimo for the time being. Su Zimo merely nodded without any emotions. Many cultivators gradually dispersed after the dissemination of the rewards. Most sects and factions would choose to reside in Myriad Phenomenon City and wait for the dimensional spots of the ancient battlefield to open up again 3 months later so that they can return to Tianhuang mainland. Su Zimo, Monkey, and the others had already planned to take their leave first. Su Zimo went to visit Demonis Ji and handed her the Great Qian Imperial Seal. "Help me take this back and give it to Yaoxue." The Great Qian Imperial Seal was not only a carnate spirit weapon, there was an even deeper meaning behind it. Su Zimo had already intended to hand it over to Yaoxue the moment he got his hands on it. Nothing else. That's all. A fragrance wafted over. Demonis Ji closed in to Su Zimo with an unfriendly expression and grit her teeth. "Don't you have anything for me?" Su Zimo gave a bitter laugh. He truly had nothing. He knew that he was in the wrong and turned to leave, disappearing in a flash. "Coward, you're afraid I might eat you up." Demonis Ji stomped her foot and harumphed. "Xiaoning, follow your sect back to Elixir Yang sect. I'll take my leave first. I'll visit you if I have the chance." Su Zimo went to visit Xiaoning for a final farewell. "Yes." She nodded with a slumped head, as though she had something on her mind. "What's wrong?" Su Zimo asked. "I want to pay my respects to Big Brother," Xiaoning said after a moment of silence. Su Zimo wanted to reject her almost immediately. However, when he saw the sorrow in Xiaoning's eyes, he realized that this secular relationship would always be in her heart if it was not resolved. He was in the same state previously. However, it was truly way too dangerous for Xiaoning to head to the North region alone. Su Zimo was extremely worried. Yet, Things would most likely be even more dangerous if he followed her. I'll accompany her. Right then, Night Spirit's voice sounded. His tone was calm, as though he was saying something extremely casual. Su Zimo was relieved. He believed that Xiaoning would definitely be fine if she was accompanied by Night Spirit. However, the 7 of them had only just become sworn siblings and they were about to be separated after their short gathering. Everyone felt reluctant about it. I can't follow you guys either. Right then, the Golden Lion said softly in an embarrassed manner. Ah! The Spirit Tiger squatted down and asked, where are you going to go? Don't worry, I won't bully you in the future or call you Golden Hair or anything like that. I'll call you 7, how about that? No. The Golden Lion looked even more nervous and waved it off hurriedly. I've got a friend. Yes, friend, back in the Wild Lion Ridge. I've got to return to see her. I can't leave without a farewell. Friend. The Spirit Tiger's eyes lit up. Monkey teased him, it's your lover, right? Heh. The Golden Lion scratched his head with a chuckle, but he did not deny. Initially, the Spirit Tiger, Ching Ching, and the others were feeling sad because they had to part with Night Spirit. All of a sudden, their eyes blazed with the flames of gossip when they heard about this. Hurry, tell me, what's up between you two? What's the name of your lover? Is she pretty? How long have you guys been together? Why have I never heard you mention her? A series of questions flew over and the Golden Lion blushed bright red. In fact, he even looked embarrassed as he said, pretty. Of course she's pretty. After a momentary pause, he mustered his courage. Her name is Cuckoo and there's no one else in this world that's better than her in my eyes. Woo. Monkey and the others cheered with wild laughter. Su Zimo stood at the side and smiled in silence with a sense of warmth in his heart as he looked at Monkey and the others play around. He was about to begin on a new journey. Thankfully, he wasn't going to be doing it alone. Chapter 791 World of the Demon Race. Chapter 791 World of the Demon Race. Su Zimo's group separated with Night Spirit and the Golden Lion upon leaving Myriad Phenomenon City. Su Zimo, Monkey, the Spirit Tiger, Ching Ching, and Little Fox began on their new journey. There were 8 demon regions and they were also ranked among the super factions of Tianhuang mainland. That was the reason why there was the saying of the 9 immortal sects and 8 demon regions. However, of the 8 demon regions, 3 of them were not on land and were out in the oceans. Tianhuang mainland consisted of 4 regions, 3 oceans, and 1 continent. The 4 regions were the North, South, East and West regions. The continent referred to the Middle Continent. The 3 oceans surrounded Tianhuang mainland from the east, south, and north directions. The oceanic world was vast and was multiple times larger than the surface area of the land. There were countless unheard of ancient living beings and primordial living beings even existed in the depths of the oceans. They had yet to cultivate essence spirits at their current cultivation realm. Even if they could enter the oceans, they wouldn't be able to adapt. The 5 of them were considered as living beings of the land. Even after they advanced to the nascent soul realm and cultivated their essence spirits, their combat strength would definitely be diminished significantly in the depths of the oceans. Those 3 demon regions had to be eliminated for the time being. Among the 5 of them, Su Zimo was probably the only one who wouldn't be affected in the depths of the oceans. Before they entered the astral dragon sputum lair, the group of them dove into the bottom of the lake and engaged in a massive battle there. Su Zimo's combat strength did not seem to be affected even in deep waters. At that time, he was puzzled over the reason. During his recent rest period in Myriad Phenomenon City, he recalled about these incidents and an extremely frightening guess gradually surfaced within Su Zimo's mind. His illumination eye was imparted to him at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley by the red-headed ghost. However, when the God Race leader saw the visual technique, he referred to it as the Illumination Dragon Eye and said that it was a secret skill of the Dragon Race. When he asked the red-headed ghost at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley for the name of this visual technique, the latter had an odd expression and was ambiguous. Su Zimo was more inclined to believe in the God Race leader's words. However, that was the issue. How did he manage to cultivate a secret skill of the Dragon Race? There was also the issue of the ancient dragonification art. When he released it previously, there would merely be a lifelike divine dragon conjured around him. But this time round, his body underwent a terrifying change. Back at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley when Suzimo underwent his demonic cultivation, he had similar experiences. His skin would feel itchy as though something was about to burst forth from it. However, upon closer inspection, he discovered nothing. At that time, he paid no attention to it. To think that dragon scales would appear on his body directly this time round. Was it merely because of the half-dragon egg that he consumed back in the Dragonbone Valley? Suzimo did not believe that. If the half-dragon egg was the reason, why did he not have the same terrifying transformation when he released the ancient dragonification art before he entered the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley? If it was not because of the half-dragon egg, what was the reason for it? A series of images flashed through Suzimo's mind. He thought about the red-headed ghost. He thought about the bowl of spirit water that the red-headed ghost offered him every month. That spirit water. Suzimo's eyes narrowed and his gaze shone. Nobody was clearer than him about the tremendous power within the spirit water. That bowl of spirit water every month was the reason why he could cultivate the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley and heal his inner core back to its original state. Now that he thought about it carefully, that was probably not spirit water, but blood. The blood of the dragon race. The only reason why his body underwent such a tremendous change such that he could transform partially into a dragon was because he drank the blood of the dragon race for 20 years. The bloodline of the dragon race was probably the reason why his smashed inner core could heal to its original state. It was because he contained the bloodline of the dragon race within him that he was able to cultivate a secret skill of the dragon race, the Illumination Dragon Eye. It was because of the bloodline of the dragon race that his combat strength was not affected underwater. Dragons were used to flying through clouds and water to begin with. Even if they were in the depths of the oceans, they could create a stir, let alone the depths of a lake. With that, the identity of the red-headed ghost became even more mysterious. Could the red-headed ghost be someone from the dragon race? A bold thought crossed Suzimo's mind that even gave himself a shock. What was the background of a chained dragon in the backyard at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley? Suzimo could not help but recall the catastrophe from 10,000 years ago. However, there were many things that would not make sense even if the red-headed ghost was the dragon of the catastrophe. What are you thinking about, young master? Little Fox closed in when she saw Suzimo frowning in deep thoughts and could not help but ask. It's nothing. Suzimo shook his head and suppressed the thoughts momentarily. Unless he asked the old monk and the red-headed ghost personally, any conclusion he came to would merely be a fragment of his imagination. After the 3 oceanic demon regions were eliminated, the North region was eliminated as well. Apart from the threat of Glass Palace, Suzimo was worried about the Dragonbone Valley. The Dragonbone Valley was one of the 9 forbidden grounds. There was a chance that the existences within the Dragonbone Valley might create trouble for him if he released the bloodline of the dragon race from within his body. There were not many choices left after the North region was eliminated. There were only the demon regions of the South, East and West regions as well as the Middle Continent. No matter which demon region we're in, we should lay low the moment we arrive and not attract any trouble. In a rare expression of seriousness, the spirit tiger's usual cheeky behavior was gone. Beast and birds roam the demon regions and it is filled with danger. At our level, we're among the lowest tiers among them. We can only protect ourselves after we cultivate our yin spirit and advance to become low-level fiend demons. The low-level fiend demon that the spirit tiger referred to was the equivalent of a nascent soul in the cultivation world. Even a low-level fiend demon could reign supreme in a place like the Kanglang mountain range. However, within the 8 demon regions, they could only barely ensure their own survival. Are there any factions within the demon regions as well? Ching Ching asked. Among the 5 of them, Monkey and the Spirit Tiger were the only ones who had lived in the demon regions before and understood more about them. The Spirit Tiger jolted at Ching Ching's question and said hurriedly, there are multiple factions within the demon regions and it's survival of the fittest with a strict hierarchy of levels. If you can cultivate to become a mid-level fiend demon, you can gather some lesser demons and reign as a king. Monkey's eyes lit up at the mention of reign as a king and licked his lips. He seemed to possess a fervent obsession towards being a king. Mid-level fiend demons possess a territory of their own and have many lesser and low-level fiend demons under their control. They are known as territorial lords. Mid-level fiend demons were equivalent to void reversions of the cultivation world. The spirit tiger continued, if you become a high-level fiend demon, you'll be amazing. Every single high-level fiend demon within the demon regions are overlord. All the territorial lords within their jurisdiction have to obey their orders unquestionably. High-level fiend demons were equivalent to the Dharma characteristics of the cultivation world. At that point, be it monkey or the spirit tiger, their eyes revealed hopeful looks. How glorious would it be if they became overlords within the demon regions and could command groups of demons? Suzimo asked, if the mid-level fiend demons are territorial lords and the high-level fiend demons are overlords, what comes after that? Grand demons are above high-level fiend demons. They are equivalent to the conjoint bodies of the conjoint body. Although they don't belong to any factions or possess any territories, all grand demons are completely unrestricted and can roam the demon regions freely. The spirit demon said enviously, even an overlord has to bow in the face of a grand demon and listen to its orders obediently. Chapter 792 Rat. Chapter 792 Rat. The ancient battlefield was about to be shut off in another 3 months. During this period of time, Suzimo, Monkey, and the others roamed the battlefield freely and collected as many soul-nourishing blood ginsengs as they could. The 5 of them were at the peak of their core formations and would require soul-nourishing blood ginseng to raise their cultivation realm and refine their essence spirits after advancing to the nascent soul realm. For something like the soul-nourishing blood ginseng, it was definitely the more the merrier. The term nascent soul referred to how the essence spirit resembled an infant. How was an essence spirit cultivated? Ancient sayings mentioned that one could see spirits after they broke through the void. That spirit referred to the essence spirit. In that case, what were the voids? How should one break through the voids? The essence spirit resided in a mysterious region within the brain in the depths of the glabella. It was known as the Niwan Palace, or the Spirit Platform. This was a secret place that the human body could not come into contact with. It was said that a living being's soul was contained within. Prior to this, cultivators had difficulties coming into contact with the spirit platform no matter how they tried to cultivate. There was a barrier between the human body and the spirit platform. That barrier was what the void referred to. To break through the void was to break through the barrier. At the peak of core formation, when the power of one's core was at its limits, a cultivator could attempt to break the barrier by controlling their will. If they could break the barrier, they would arrive at where the spirit platform was. A living being's soul was incorporeal. It was merely an empty ball of light. After the void was broken through and the golden core arrived at the spirit platform, resplendent light will fill the place and turn it pure white. Upon contact, the soul will form something corporeal like a newborn infant. That was the nascent soul. It was also the essence spirit. The human body was extremely mysterious and was a world of its own. The process of using the golden core to break through the void was the process of communicating with the universe. That was the reason why cultivators could utilize heaven and earth powers after cultivating an essence spirit, making use of dharmic powers that were even more terrifying and stronger than spirit energy. However, Suzimo's situation was different from others. He did not only have a golden core within his body, he had an inner core as well. Nobody knew what changes would happen if he broke through given those circumstances. For 3 months, the 5 of them encountered a lot of battles of various intensities. Some ignorant ferocious beasts and ancient living beings attempted to gang up on them and steal their treasures, seeing that there were only 5 of them, but ended up being defeated themselves. There was nothing within this world that could threaten the 5 of them anymore. This day, Suzimo's group of 5 defeated another beast stampede and started to tidy up their spoils of war in the battlefield. Right now, there were already more than 80,000 soul-nourishing blood ginsengs in Suzimo's storage bag. I'd say we shouldn't continue and search painstakingly for the soul-nourishing blood ginsengs. The spirit tiger said as he collected the storage bags on the battlefield. We should just rob them. Given our capabilities, we'll be able to rob tons of them. That sounds feasible. Ching Ching said hostilely as well. There's been demon beasts that tried to take advantage of us for the past few days. We might as well take the initiative and rob them instead. Suzimo was silent and gazed at a small hill not far away fixedly. Young master, what are you looking at? Little Fox was curious and looked where Suzimo was looking, but she saw nothing. A cowardly rat has been following us for a few days now. However, he hasn't done anything. Suzimo said with a fake smile, I'm just curious what he's up to. Huh? Where? Little Fox asked with widened eyes. Suzimo raised his head slightly and chuckled. Hiding right beneath that small hill. Monkey, the spirit tiger and Ching Ching's gazes turned over as well. They moved and gradually formed an encirclement, glaring with cold gazes and hostile expressions. According to Suzimo's words, this person has followed them for a couple of days, yet, the few of them did not realize anything at all. This meant that the intruder was rather capable. In truth, Suzimo was curious as well. The person following them was extremely careful and had gentle movements that were almost impossible to detect. Suzimo cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, and the blood of the dragon race flowed through his body. As such, his 6 senses were frighteningly keen. If not for that, it would have been difficult to notice this person's presence. More importantly, his spirit perception did not give him any warning. In other words, the person that followed them was not hostile. That was also the reason why Suzimo did not make a move and kill the intruder instantly. However, that person did not give up even after a few days and continued following them. That irritated Suzimo slightly. Coward, who are you? Come forth. The spirit tiger glared at the hill not far away and shouted domineeringly. To be fair, even as the 3 of them glared at the hill, none of them noticed that somebody was hiding there. However, a moment later, the small hill moved. The ground gradually caved in and a hole the size of a face opened up where it was. Immediately after, a grey demon beast scurried out of the hole. Everyone focused their gazes and were stunned. Little Fox murmured with her mouth agape, "It's really a rat." Suzimo was slightly stunned as well before he lost his composure and laughed. The demon was around the size of a guinea pig and was filled with short, grey fur all over its body. It had a long tail and its tiny eyes darted around with a shifty expression. It was truly a gigantic rat. Fellow brothers, please don't get worked up. I'm your good friend, the rat spoke in human tongue. Stop acting chummy with me, rat, what are you doing following us? When the spirit tiger saw that it was a rat, he felt that he could slap the latter to death with a single palm strike. As such, he was invigorated and shouted again. The rat was so shocked that it shuddered. Please calm down, great tiger. The rat cupped his tiny paws together and greeted Monkey, the spirit tiger and Ching Ching politely as it beamed embarrassedly and spoke in human tongue. Previously, by coincidence, I came across you guys fighting and was extremely amazed. The unparalleled brilliance is something that I look up to and can't forget. Monkey and Ching Ching did not have many reactions when they heard that. However, the spirit tiger was extremely proud and blushed with bright spirits. Rat, you sure are right about that. The spirit tiger nodded and asked, when you mentioned unparalleled brilliance, which one of us were you referring to? The rat replied hurriedly, you, the great tiger of course. You were incomparably brave and an invincible might. Your torrential aura can sweep through the 8 desolates unmatched. The spirit tiger was delighted but pretended to be calm as he said deeply, yes, you're quite the sharp person. Wow. Ching Ching and Little Fox could take it no longer as they rolled their eyes and retched. After one whole day, you've yet to tell us what you're doing following us. Monkey sneered and kicked the rat without exerting much strength. The rat's eyes flickered. Brothers, the main reason why I'm following you guys is because I can't forget about your brilliance. If you don't start getting honest, I'm going to cut off your head and hang it on my waist so that you can follow me forever. How about that? Monkey smirked. The rat shuddered and behaved himself before smiling embarrassedly. I wish to invite you guys to head to my territory. I believe you'll be able to dominate the place with your capabilities. Suzimo's heart stirred and he asked, "Where is your territory?" "In the middle continent, the 1,000 Demon Valley," the rat replied. Chapter 793, Three Fiend Demons. Chapter 793, Three Fiend Demons. Monkey, the spirit tiger and Ching Ching turned towards Suzimo for a decision. Suzimo asked without any emotions, "You're only a spirit demon, how do you have a territory?" "Of course, the territory isn't mine." The rat explained hurriedly, "The territory I belong to is the Howling Moon Mountain and the territorial lord is a wolf king who is extremely gracious. Given your capabilities, I'm sure you'll be highly regarded if you join our Howling Moon Mountain." Suzimo remained silent. The rat was unnerved and its eyeballs fluttered around, stealing glances at this refined green-robed man. After following them for a few days, it could naturally tell that the green-robed man was the leader of the group. Although the monkey and tiger were ferocious, the rat felt that this green-robed man was even more frightening and unfathomable. The rat's combat strength was ordinary but it was capable. Otherwise, it would not have been sent into the ancient battlefield. Its greatest capability was moving in stealth. As long as it was careful in the 1,000 Demon Valley, even low-level fiend demons would be hard-pressed to detect its presence. However, this green-robed man discovered him instantly and he had nowhere to hide. What was even more frightening was that even after a few days of observation, the rat discovered that it could not read this man at all. Or rather, it did not know whether this was a human or a demon. "All right." Just as the rat was about to sweat, Suzimo nodded slowly and agreed to it. If they wanted to leave the ancient battlefield and head to a demon region, they had to locate its corresponding teleportation point. Without help from anyone, the search for the teleportation points would be akin to searching for a needle in a haystack for the 5 of them. There was no guarantee that they could locate the right one. The 5 of them had yet to settle on the demon region they wanted to head to. Right now, this was an opportunity. They could save quite a bit of trouble if they followed this rat to the 1,000 Demon Valley. The 1,000 Demon Valley was located in the Middle Continent. The Middle Continent could be considered as the most flourished region of the cultivation civilization. Most of the supersects, Elixir Yang sect, Thousand Crane sect and Tomb sect included, were located in the Middle Continent. If Suzimo wanted to leave the demon region and visit Xiaoning, Little Fatty and other old friends in the future, it would be more convenient as well. It did not matter whether or not they were going to join the Howling Moon Mountain. The most important thing for the 5 of them was to head to a secluded and quiet place for them to break through from the core formation realm upon reaching the demon region. The deadline of the year was almost up. A few figures darted past a secluded cave. Right at the front was a gigantic rat. Behind it were 5 figures. "Your teleportation point is way too secretive." The voice of the spirit tiger sounded. Suzimo and the other 4 followed the rat into the cave through twists and turns like a maze. Finally, they arrived at the end after a full hour. A vortex filled with demonic chi shone darkly in the voids at the front. "Brothers, follow me." The rat gestured with his hand and leaped in, vanishing in the blink of an eye. Little Fox was a little nervous. They were about to head into an extremely foreign environment. She would have been flustered long ago if Suzimo was not by her side. "Don't be afraid." Suzimo held Little Fox's wrist gently and exchanged glances with Monkey and the rest before leaping into the vortex. When their figures vanished, the vortex paused for a brief moment before dispersing, returning the voids to its usual quietness. The world spun. The group of them felt as though they were traveling through a dark tunnel. They could not control their bodies and there was no sense of direction or flow of time. It was an extremely terrible sensation and their chests felt stuffy. Little Fox could not see anything around her but she could feel a warm hand gripping her wrist tightly without relenting. Gradually, she calmed down. An unknown period of time passed. The suffocating sensation vanished and the smell of fresh flora surged into their noses. A figure fell rapidly amidst a forest of trees. Ouch! It was a tragic cry. A large pit appeared on the ground. The rat was sprawled on the ground and its bones and tendons felt like snapping after the massive fall. Ha 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 ha. A series of mocking laughter sounded. Dumb as a pig. If you're not dead, get the hell up. A voice sounded and chided. The rat shuddered at the sound of that voice. Although it cursed internally, it forced out a slight smile and struggled to stand up, turning towards the voice. Immediately after, a few figures fell rapidly. Bang! 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 There were a few loud explosions. Grass and mud splashed everywhere as Suzimo, Monkey, and the others rose calmly. The few of them were able to stabilize themselves before reaching the ground with their mighty physiques and frightening combat talent. Suzimo shifted his gaze without any emotions. He was already scanning his environment before he landed. This was an extremely ancient forest that was dark and sinister. The ancient trees at the side towered into the clouds and were even thicker than the ancient trees back in Kanglang mountain range. Green vines the thickness of one's arms snaked around their trunks like pythons in a frightening manner. There were at least 100 demon beasts in this forest. Most of them were spirit demons at the Golden Core realm. However, among them, 3 demon beasts had an extremely frightening aura that went beyond a spirit demon's. There should be 3 fiend demons in the vicinity. 3 mighty figures walked over from the front. All of them were dozens of feet tall and had frightening auras. The figures on the left and right were gigantic and muscular. The figure on the left had a bared chest that was filled with black hair. With a humanoid figure and the head of a bear, it was a black bear that cultivated into a demon. The figure on the right was hairless, but it had rough skin and bulging muscles that resembled rocks. There was even a gigantic horn on its head. It was a bull that had cultivated into a demon. The figure in the middle was slightly skinnier with hands behind its back. It had a humanoid figure with the head of a goat and a pair of slightly curved goat horns. With a frown and a dark gaze, there was a small goatee on its chin. It was a goat spirit that cultivated the Tao and became a fiend demon. The 3 of them advanced and exclaimed softly when they caught sight of Suzimo's group. "Ah, I'm being received personally by the 3 great leaders under the Howling Moon Territorial Lord. This is an honor of a lifetime for me." The rat rolled and stood up before scurrying to the 3 fiend demons with a pandering expression. "Yes." The 3 of them nodded. The goat demon glared at Suzimo's group with slightly raised brows and asked coldly, "Who are they?" He was already displeased when he saw Suzimo and the other 4 standing with their chests puffed with calm expressions instead of heading over to greet him. The hierarchy of the demon race was strict. Spirit demons had to bow down in the face of fiend demons. The rat was already alarmed when he sensed the displeasure from the goat demon and the other 2. However, he could not voice it out directly, so he winked hurriedly towards Suzimo and the others. When he heard the words of the goat demon, the rat's heart skipped a beat and he replied hurriedly, "Sir, I came across them when I was in the ancient battlefield and decided to invite them back to join the Howling Moon Mountain because they are rather capable. They should be feeling nervous because they've just arrived. The reason why they haven't greeted the 3 of you must be because they are stricken by how awesome you are." The rat added hurriedly before casting glances towards Suzimo and the others. Chapter 794, Don't Know What's Good. Chapter 794, Don't Know What's Good. Suzimo knew that the rat was looking out for them. After a momentary silence, Suzimo raised his chin slightly with cupped fists and said, "The 5 of us are sworn siblings from the North region. Greetings, 3 sirs." He was neither overbearing nor servile. Who was Suzimo? He was the number 1 of the Golden Core phenomenon ranking. He was the 2nd human emperor and the strongest monster incarnate in history. This was someone who killed the beings of the primordial 9 races in Myriad Phenomenon City and had the blood of a dragon flowing within his body. Although the 3 of them were fiend demons, they were only low-level fiend demons and were equivalent to the nascent souls of human cultivators. They were nothing much to Suzimo. He was already showing immense respect with his willingness to greet with cupped fists on their first meeting. What he was truly wary about was the Howling Moon Territorial Lord behind the 3 of them. One had to be a mid-level fiend demon in order to be a territorial lord, and that was equivalent to a void reversion. That was 2 major cultivation realms above Suzimo. Furthermore, They were foreign to the Thousand Demon Valley. There was no need for them to get into conflict with any faction upon their immediate arrival. The most important thing for the 5 of them was to settle down and get familiarized with their surroundings. Thereafter, they had to seek out a safe, secluded location to attempt their breakthroughs. Monkey raised his brow slightly when he saw Suzumo speak. He followed suit and cupped his fists symbolically without saying anything. He had a proud nature, but there was nothing much to greeting someone. However, there was definitely no way he could pander the same way the rat did. The 5 of them followed Suzumo's lead. The spirit tiger and Ching Ching exchanged glances and greeted in the same manner. The bear demon gave an odd laugh and glared at Suzumo coolly. You sure are cocky. Interesting, interesting. The bull demon glared at the rat and sneered. Don't these puny demons you found know any rules? Although the bull demon was smiling, his eyes were filled with pure coldness. The goat demon was expressionless and glared at Suzumo for a long time. His brows were knitted subtly and only unfurled after it seemed as though he could not make out anything. The rat wiped away his sweat in secret and said, 3 sirs, please don't be angered. The few of them don't know the rules because they've just arrived. They will definitely be better in the future. Monkey's lips twitched as he sneered internally. What's there to be cocky about? Once I break through from the core formation realm and become a fiend demon, anyone of your level will be bashed to death by my rod one after another. The rat continued, 3 sirs, don't worry, the 5 of them are not weak. They will definitely become capable subjects for the Howling Moon Territorial Lord in the future. A monkey, a tiger, and an immortal crane. The goat demon muttered and his cold gaze moved slowly and was fixed on Suzumo. What's your true form? Be it monkey or the spirit tiger, although they were in human form, it was incomplete and they bore signs of their true forms. However, Suzumo looked like a human through and through. If not for the fact that he could not sense any aura of an essence spirit from Suzumo, the goat demon would have thought that the green-robed man was a fiend demon. Suzumo frowned. Although he emanated demonic chi, he was not a demon to begin with. How could he have a true form? He might be able to get through saying that he was half a dragon, but would the 3 people before him believe his words? Right then, the goat demon's eyes sharpened as he glared behind Suzumo before hollering, "That woman, stand forth." The expressions of Monkey, the spirit tiger and everyone else darkened immediately. A frail figure slowly appeared. It was none other than Little Fox, who was hiding behind Suzumo in silence. Little Fox looked flustered. However, she had been through bloodshed in the ancient battlefield after all and had turned much more courageous. She composed herself and greeted the 3 fiend demons politely before saying in a soft voice, "Greeting, 3 sirs." Little Fox was way too beautiful. Her body was curvy and innately bewitching. Charm was exuded from head to toe of her body. Even without releasing the bewitchment techniques of the fox race, most people would feel frustrated and worked up at the mere sight of Little Fox. This lass is decent. The black bear demon smacked his lips and smirked. The bull demon pouted his lips. It's a pity that her frame is too small and frail. She can't take any roughness at all. The black bear demon nodded in agreement. The goat demon sized Little Fox up brazenly and suddenly asked, "Fox race?" Little Fox had transformed into a human completely and there were no flaws in her outer appearance, yet the goat demon was able to see through her true form instantly. A flustered look flashed through Little Fox's eyes and vanished instantly. She shook her head and forced a smile. "Sir, you must be joking. I'm not from the fox race." Little Fox's lie was way too obvious to the goat demon. Foo-foo. This was the first time that a smile appeared on the goat demon's face. His skinny face that was originally filled with wrinkles crumpled even further and he looked somewhat frightening. "You'll follow me from this day forth." He pointed to Little Fox and said in a commanding tone that was unquestionable. A hint of scarlet gradually appeared in Monkey's eyes. The spirit tiger's hair stood on end. Ching Ching's expression was cold and she was prepared to revert to her true form and fight at any moment. It did not matter much to Monkey and the others whether they had to join Howling Moon or greet the 3 fiend demons. However, Little Fox was their bottom line. Nobody was allowed to harbor designs on Little Fox. Nobody noticed that Suzimo's head was slightly lowered the moment the goat demon's sights were locked onto Little Fox. Suzimo's gaze was cold and filled with immense killing intent. Instantly, the atmosphere within the forest tensed up and was murderous. The bull demon glared at Monkey and the others and chided, "What are you doing? Do you have a death wish?" The black bear demon cracked his neck and rubbed his gigantic bear paws together, chuckling coldly. "It's been a long time since I've killed to my fill." More than 100 golden core spirit demons gradually gathered around from the forest. They had hostile expressions and bared their fangs and claws. "Everyone, calm down, calm down." The rat was flustered and made eyes at Suzimo's group constantly. The three sirs have served the Howling Moon Territorial Lord for many years. It isn't a bad thing following them. The rat placed emphasis on the words Howling Moon Territorial Lord. He was reminding them out of goodwill. However, he truly had not realized how important Little Fox was to Suzimo and the others. Even if it was an overlord that wanted to lay his hands on Little Fox, Suzimo and the others would fight with their lives on the line, let alone a territorial lord. The goat demon glanced at the flustered rat by the side and asked coldly, "These puny demons don't know what's good for them. Are you on their side?" "Aye." The rat was so frightened that he shirked his neck and lost his courage. The situation before them was truly not as he had expected. The rat had truly invited Suzimo and the other four to Howling Moon Mountain because he thought highly of their capabilities. To think that things would develop as such the moment they arrived here. He glanced at Suzimo and the others before standing behind the three fiend demons, obediently and slightly ashamed. It was not a difficult choice to make. A glance was enough to see which was the stronger side. "So, there are truly people who don't know what's good for them," Suzimo sighed gently. Before his sigh ended, he struck without any warning. Chapter 795, Killing Fiend Demons. Chapter 795, Killing Fiend Demons. A moment earlier, this was a frail scholar with a lowered head. The next moment, he became an ancient demon that was decisive to kill. Suzimo was unfamiliar with this forest and knew nothing about it. However, the same could be said for the living beings of the forest towards him. The three fiend demons did not know what sort of an existence this seemingly frail scholar was. The moment Suzimo moved, the three fiend demons were slightly stunned with a single thought in their minds. How dare he? A spirit demon at Golden Core Realm dared to take the initiative against three fiend demons. They were shocked before their thoughts were finished. Suzimo had already closed in on them. They were less than 100 feet apart and he arrived instantly. It was too fast. A suffocating pressure surged forward and Suzimo's figure pushed into the embrace of the black bear. He leaned in and exerted strength. Bang! A dull sound of flesh clashing could be heard. The black bear demon's eyes widened in fear and he was sent flying viciously by Suzimo before he could even land a palm strike. The jarring sound of bones cracking could be heard from within his massive body. The chest of the black bear demon was caved in deeply. A fiend demon was almost smashed apart by Suzimo. Demons were innately strong with sharp fangs and claws and specialized in tempering their bodies. As fiend demons, they could undergo anedia and consume the essence of day and night to refine their bodies without tempering their flesh directly. A body that was refined from the essence of day and night was even stronger. That was the single greatest difference between low-level fiend demons and spirit demons. In the demon world, it was almost impossible for spirit demons to threaten fiend demons because they were on completely different levels. However, that scene smashed the world view of many demon beasts. The 100-odd demon beasts that just rushed up paused in their tracks subconsciously, their pupils constricted with looks of disbelief in their eyes. Their leader, the black bear low-level fiend demon, was crippled by that seemingly frail scholar. The rat hid in a corner and his eyes were widened. He was so scared that he nearly bit his tongue off. The gaze of the black bear demon dimmed gradually. The impact of the burst severed the life within his body entirely. Roar. The bull demon at the side snapped out of his stupor and let out a roar. His flesh expanded and his bones transformed. He wanted to revert to his true form and fight Suzimo. However, Suzimo's body crackled at the same time and his body expanded much more. Get the hell back. His voice exploded like thunder as he smashed his heavenly encompassing palm down onto the bull demon's head. The bull demon grunted deeply. His body was more than half transformed when it was suppressed by the heavenly encompassing palm. It was as though there was now an unshakable mountain on his back. Buzz! Buzz! The bull demon's skin was ripped with multiple lines and fresh blood spewed outward. His skin was ruptured because of the tremendous pressure. Right in front of everyone, the bull demon's body had just expanded when it was forced back by Suzumo's palm and blood mist spewed from his body. The demon beasts that were charging over merely felt their scalps prickle. Their eyes were no longer filled with disbelief, they were now filled with horror and panic. Kill. Right then, Monkey, the spirit tiger and Ching Ching reverted to their true forms one after another and charged into the crowd after the spirit tiger's roar. The few of them had just gotten out from the ancient battlefield. What sort of people were those that were in the ancient battlefield? Be it human cultivators or demons, they were all the paragons and elites of the Golden Core realm. The few of them dominated through the ancient battlefield overwhelmingly. How could the spirit demons before them be compared to them? They were like tigers in a pack of sheep and created a bloodstorm. Monkey charged in front of a gigantic elephant with huge strides and extended his palm. He grabbed the trunk of the elephant and exerted godly strength to lift the latter up entirely. There was a boom. The gigantic elephant created a perfect semicircle in midair and was smashed viciously onto the ground. It was dead with its tendons and bones completely snap. On the other side, the spirit tiger charged towards another tiger demon and bared his fangs and claws with a fierce expression. The two spirit tigers opened their bloody mouths together and were fearsome as they bit one another. However, electric currents flashed through the spirit tiger's body. The tiger demon on the other end shuddered and its blood chi was struck by the sudden power of thunder. It froze in midair, completely numb. The spirit tiger did not slow down and bit the throat of the tiger demon instantly. Flashes of blood appeared. The spirit tiger twisted his head furiously. The throat of the tiger demon was ripped off by him. Chirp! The clear cry of a crane could be heard. Ching Ching spread her wings and circled in midair before coming to a sudden descent. Her sharp talons were outstretched and she grabbed the head of a demon beast. The next moment, she soared into the air once more. The scalp of the demon beast was ripped off by Ching Ching's talons. The experience in the ancient battlefield was extremely important for Monkey and the others. Their combat strength increased significantly and each of them were now highly skilled in killing others. Every single attack they made was a clean killing move. Even Little Fox, who seemed gentle on the surface, was not to be trifled with. There was a demon beast that attempted to approach Little Fox earlier on and capture her alive. However, before that demon beast could approach, another demon beast lunged over from the side and sent it flying. Before the second demon beast could stand still, yet another demon beast charged over with sharp claws and fought it to the death. A group of demon beasts with bloodshot eyes surrounded Little Fox. Their minds were completely lost and the entire place was chaotic with them killing one another. Little Fox merely stood on the spot quietly. However, no demon beast could approach her at all. On the other side, the bull demon had a menacing expression and growled deeply. It was struggling to persevere. With a cold gaze, Suzumo raised his leg and kicked violently. Bang! The body of the bull demon was sent flying by Suzumo instantly and smashed through a dozen heavenly piercing ancient trees before landing in the mud motionlessly. It was thoroughly dead. The remaining goat demon had just reverted to his true form. He raised his sharp horns and was about to thrust Suzumo when he had a horrific discovery. The two fiend demons beside him had already fallen. In the blink of an eye, he was the only one left. Escape! There was definitely no way he could escape given the movement technique Suzumo displayed earlier on. Since he could not escape, the only thing he could do was fight to the death. At that thought, the goat demon raised his sharp horns and thrust violently towards Suzumo with a lowered head. Suzumo was motionless. Unknowingly, Suzumo had already reached out with a pair of gigantic hands and grabbed the goat demon's pair of sharp horns. He looked down with a cold expression and a condescending look in his eyes. He looked like a divine being that was looking at an ant. What are you trying to do? How dare you? The goat demon said sternly, but his voice was trembling. I am a great leader under the Howling Moon Territorial Lord. If you hurt my life, he will definitely skin you alive and burn your bones into ashes. Let me tell you one thing. Suzimo's voice sounded with a calm tone. I've always been extremely daring. Crack. He exerted strength in both arms and ripped the sharp horns of the goat demon out of its head. The goat demon's brain juices spilled onto the ground, steaming. The head of the goat demon was ruptured and its essence spirit was destroyed on the spot. Chapter 796, Exposed. Chapter 796, Exposed. In the blink of an eye, the 3 fiend demons were dead. A thick blood stench and murderous aura spread through the forest. The remaining demon beasts were already on the verge of defeat after the massacre of Monkey and the spirit tiger. When they saw that, they were scared out of their wits and fled in all directions. Where can you run to? Monkey was high on killing and chased after a demon beast, smashing its head into pulp with a single punch. His eyes were slightly bloodshot and he had an excited expression. With a flash, he charged into the forest and wanted to kill off the rest of the demon beasts. All of a sudden, a figure appeared in a flash and blocked his path forward. Monkey did not hesitate and threw a punch instantly. Bang! The intruder reached out and grabbed Monkey's fist with his palm. He received the full power of the punch directly. Monkey was forced to stop. It's me. Suzimo's voice sounded and he let go of Monkey's fist before saying in a low voice, don't chase them anymore. Let's get out of here first. Although Suzimo was decisive to kill and took down the 3 fiend demons right away with his sharp attacks, he had not lost his sanity. This was not the ancient battlefield. The few of them could overwhelm anything in their path in the ancient battlefield. But not here. This was one of the 8 demon regions and was the Howling Moon Mountain of the 1000 Demon Valley. There were way too many existences here that could threaten them. This was not the Kanglang mountain range either. No matter if it was Suzimo or Monkey, they were extremely familiar with the environment, terrain, and surroundings of the Kanglang mountain range. However, they knew nothing about this place. It was easy to kill 3 low-level fiend demons, but the troubles that awaited them thereafter could be never-ending. If they continued to chase after the fleeing demon beasts and waste more time, they would be in even greater danger. If they attracted even more fiend demons or even the legendary Howling Moon Territorial Lord, the 5 of them would most certainly be doomed. To be a Territorial Lord, one had to be a mid-level fiend demon, that was equivalent to a void reversion. The power of a void reversion was something that Suzimo could not go against right now even if he were to release all his trump card. The most important thing right now was for them to leave this place as soon as possible and seek out a safe, secluded place for the 5 of them to achieve their breakthroughs. If they could cultivate their essence spirits and advance to become fiend demons, they could stabilize their cultivation realms and refine dharmic weapons. That would also mean that they would be able to protect themselves. After all, the few of them had benefited quite a bit in the ancient battlefield. There were a total of 9 sections to the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness. The next section was the Yin Spirit section. Right now, he had already cultivated 7 ancient demon kings. If he was not wrong, there was a high chance that another ancient demon king would appear in the Yin Spirit section. Suzimo looked forward to the sort of cultivation technique in the Yin Spirit as well as which ancient demon king would appear. Monkey panted heavily and the scarlet shade in his eyes faded when he heard Suzimo's voice. He nodded and replied, "Let's go." Suzimo beckoned and roughly chose a direction before charging into the forest. Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching, and Little Fox followed close behind. They were extremely foreign to the environment and terrain of this forest. Thankfully, Suzimo's spirit perception was frightening and his 6 senses were keen, helping them avoid quite a bit of trouble. They traveled for close to 2 hours and found a quiet and slightly secluded cave. Suzimo entered first and surveyed the place. He ensured that there was no danger before beckoning for Monkey and the others to join him. Take a rest first and look for an opportunity to prepare for your breakthroughs. I'll go set up some things outside the cave. With that statement, Suzimo turned to leave. He arrived at the entrance of the cave and thought about the array formations he had learned for the past few years. Zimo had not abandoned the Tao of array formations for the past few years. If his comprehension of formations was not deep enough, he would not be able to release the power of his illumination sword formation. Zimo's foundation in array formations was built when he was in Ethereal Peak. However, he learned of many high-end secret formations from the Sutra Chamber at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. After a momentary silence, Zimo began setting up array formations. He did not dare to be careless given that they had just entered the demon regions. The only way they could ensure that nothing went wrong was if he set up some concealment and illusion formations to disguise their location. Spirit chi surged out from Zimo's fingertips and converged into a sword that drew out formation patterns on the ground. His process of setting up the formation was not entirely smooth. From time to time, the presence of spirit demons in the vicinity would appear. In order to prevent exposure, Zimo would pause each time he sensed the presence of a spirit demon and only continued to set up the formations after the spirit demon left. In less than half a day, news of the death of the 3 fiend demons had already spread everywhere. As time passed by, the number of spirit demons that passed by the area increased. All of them had grim, hostile expressions. It was clear that they were searching for something. Thankfully, none of the spirit demons discovered the existence of the cave. Nighttime. A few different sets of breathings could be heard from within the pitch-black cave. Demonic chi rumbled along with the breathing sounds and spread within the cave, turning richer. Be it the breathing sounds or the thick demonic chi, everything was contained within the cave, isolated through the formations at the cave entrance. At the cave entrance, Zimo sat on the ground and gazed backwards. Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching and Little Fox did not show any signs of breaking through after half a day. All of them were at the peak of the core formation realm and were a single step away from crossing it. However, it was no simple task breaking through from a major cultivation realm such as the core formation realm. One had to compose themselves and gather their chi for a breakthrough as such. From the unknowns, they had to sense a mysterious opportunity for things to work out. It was like an adrenaline rush. If they were obstinate and tried to force a breakthrough without the right opportunity, they would end up being frustrated and result in chi deviation. Zimo did not attempt for a breakthrough and merely chose to guard the place. The process of breaking through a major realm was critical and must not be disturbed. They were in a dangerous place. If the 5 of them were to attempt breakthroughs at the same time and met with danger without anybody guarding, they would definitely be severely injured and their cultivation foundations would be destroyed. Slowly, Zimo closed his eyes and relaxed his mind. Outside the cave, crickets chirped and frogs croaked. Insects and ants scuttled around. Wings flapped through the air. Although his eyes were not open, Zimo was able to visualize the way the birds soared through the air. It was a mysterious sensation. It was peaceful and calm. An unknown period of time passed. All of a sudden, Zimo's heart skipped a beat and his eyes jerked open like 2 flashes of lightning that tore through the dark night. Right then, the sounds of the crickets chirping, frogs croaking, birds and beasts had suddenly disappeared. It was like the calm surface of a lake with a rock cast into it. The original tranquility was disturbed. Slowly, Zimo rose with a cold expression and his eyes flickered frostily. It was silent outside the cave. However, he knew that there were dangers abound, waiting to kill them. How could that be? How could his location be exposed? Zimo had many questions in his mind. He was certain that he was not trailed by any spirit demons along the way before they found this place. He was also certain that no spirit demon saw them enter the place. Furthermore, there was a concealment formation outside the cave entrance. How were they discovered this quickly? Monkey smirked indifferently. We don't know whose life is going to be taken just yet. Exactly. The spirit tiger sneered as well. I can brag as well. Who are you trying to scare? Little tiger cub, how dare you behave so insolently before me? The intermediate tiger at the side roared all of a sudden and released the unique howl of the tiger race. The forest shook and evil winds gusted as a rampant might rippled everywhere. The lineage of the intermediate tiger's true form was an ancient remnant beast of the tiger race. When he saw that the spirit tiger was only an ordinary tiger, he was filled with disdain and wanted to suppress the spirit tiger using his might of the tiger race and the aura of his bloodline. However, there was no way he could know that the spirit tiger's current bloodline was no longer something that he as an ancient remnant beast could deal with. The spirit tiger had cultivated the void thunder manual back in Ethereal Peak. His bloodline possessed the power of thunder. Back in the astral dragon sputum lair, the spirit tiger fused with 4 claws of the ancient tiger race and received a blood marrow cleansing with a complete transformation. Even a pure-blooded ferocious beast of the tiger race such as the Lu Wu might not be able to suppress the spirit tiger, let alone an ancient remnant beast. The spirit tiger squinted with a pout. "What is a worthless thing like you barking noisily here for?" The intermediate tiger was enraged and grit his teeth with a fierce gaze. "Little cub, you're nothing but a tiger that has turned sentient. I did not wish to take your life on account of how difficult it must have been for you to cultivate to this point. Yet, you don't know what's good for you. You truly have a death wish. Little cub, listen up. I'm Howling Moon Mountains." The spirit tiger was annoyed with the term little cub and interrupted before the intermediate tiger could finish speaking. "I don't care who your grandmother is. Even if your grandfather is here, I'll look down on him all the same. I wasn't even talking about my grandmother. I am." The intermediate tiger was so furious that his mouth cramped and he almost spat out blood. "What's the point of wasting our breath on them? Let's capture them first." The soaring leopard had a cold gaze and glared at Monkey, who was not far away, before waving his hand. The ground shook. Spirit demons surged forward from all directions. More than 30 fiend demons rushed forward as well, and only the 2 protectors, the soaring leopard and intermediate tiger, stood where they were looking down at the 5 people not far away. To them, Suzimo's group merely consisted of 5 spirit demons. It was said that they only managed to kill the 3 low-level fiend demons earlier with surprise attacks. There was no way the 5 people before them could defend against the charge of more than 30 low-level fiend demons and an army of spirit demons. They were bound to be defeated instantly. "Stay behind me and we'll kill our way out." Suzimo gave a deep roar all of a sudden. His inner core circulated and scarlet demonic chi surged out of his nose and mouth as crackling sounds could be heard from within his body. Swoosh! Right in front of everyone, Suzimo's body expanded and transformed into the height of 100 feet tall in the blink of an eye. His black hair danced and his eyes were frightening with a torrential ferocity. "Ah! What is this?" Many spirit demons saw a gigantic shadow rise from ground up and raised their heads instinctively. Instantly, chills ran down their spines and they felt their scalps prickle. The aura that Suzimo gave off after his demonification was way too frightening. Even the group of low-level fiend demons were stricken, let alone the spirit demons present. They gasped and felt like insignificant ants against that massive body. The body seemed like it was rinsed with molten steel and shone with a bronze luster. Its muscles bulged up and felt like they contained an explosive might. This was practically an ancient grand demon that swept through the 8 desolates and could devour heaven and earth. Bang! Boom! Boom! Suzimo's body leaned forward with a stride and his gigantic feet created 2 deep ravines on the ground that seemed like they could split the heavens asunder. The spirit demons before him could not defend against it at all. Some were stomped into meat sludge and others were sent flying through countless ancient trees. The 2 ravines were dyed red with fresh blood. No demon beast could stand in the way of Suzimo's charge forward. Chapter 798, Battle in the Forest. Chapter 798, Battle in the Forest. 2 low-level fiend demons at the front were momentarily stunned and could not dodge in time. They were stomped by Suzimo and their bodies exploded into meat sludge. The demons were shocked. The protectors, the soaring leopard and the intermediate tiger, were stunned as well. They no longer underestimated their opponent and carried grim looks on their faces. What was the true form of that person? Even the 2 of them felt shudders in the face of that sort of power. Suzimo led the charge at the front and defended most of the attacks. Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching, and Little Fox followed close behind and fought against many spirit demons that swarmed towards them. There was almost nobody among the spirit demons that could threaten Monkey and the other three. Not even the pure-blooded ferocious beast. Die. A cold voice sounded beside Ching Ching's ears. A vulture swooped down at an extremely fast speed and almost descended upon Ching Ching instantly. It reached out with a pair of shimmering talons towards Ching Ching's head. Ching Ching was alarmed. From the aura of the vulture, it was clear that it was a low-level fiend demon. Ching Ching already felt her scalp prickle before the talons of the vulture descended. She did not dare to take it head-on and circulated her inner core with the full burst of her cultivation. She made a sharp turn with her body in midair and dodged the vulture's lethal attack by a hair's breadth. Even so, a tuft of feathers from Ching Ching's body were ripped off and a few drops of fresh blood splattered. Roar. The spirit tiger was furious when he saw that and let out an angry roar. With a leap, he lunged into the air and wanted to drag the vulture down. The vulture flapped its wings with a condescending look and vanished from the spot. At the same time, another low-level fiend demon had already closed in and fought the spirit tiger head-on. The spirit tiger let out a tragic cry and fell from midair, gritting his teeth in pain. Monkey was held back by a fiend demon as well and could not break free immediately. He let out deep growls and his eyes became increasingly bloodshot. The four of them could dominate anybody of the spirit demon level. However, it was difficult for them to secure victory against fiend demons. Even for Monkey, who had the strongest combat strength among them, it was difficult for him to gain the advantage in a fight against fiend demons without entering the berserk state. A low-level fiend demon glared at the spirit tiger and frowned. Although the spirit tiger fell onto the ground in a wretched manner, he managed to struggle and stand up after a few miserable cries. The fiend demon was unable to kill the spirit tiger on the spot even with its strength. The spirit tiger grit his teeth and gasped. He was secretly alarmed and felt pain all over his body as though his bones and tendons were about to snap. If he had not fused with that 4 unknown tiger claws back in the astral dragon sputum lair, he would have been severely injured or even dead from that single attack. Little Fox used her bewitchment techniques of the fox race and charmed the spirit demons. However, they did not have much of an effect for fiend demons who had cultivated essence spirits. Ching Ching was in an increasingly dangerous situation. The pressure on the four of them was mounting in the chaotic battle. All of a sudden, a gigantic palm appeared from midair and blanketed the skies with a terrifying aura as it crushed down. The vulture looked at Ching Ching, who was not far away, with mocking eyes. Right when it was about to strike again, its vision blackened. An evil gust of wind howled. A gigantic palm descended and it was too late for the vulture to dodge. A blood mist spewed out. The vulture was caught in the palm and squeezed to death. Suzimo threw away the remaining bloodstains on his palm with a cold expression. He opened his mouth and released an earth-shaking roar to the front. Roar. A massive air current surged out. Green veins popped out on Suzimo's neck like slithering snakes in a frightening manner. The ancient trees in the vicinity shook. Smaller branches were shattered immediately from that howl. Leaves scattered and turned into dust before they even reached the ground. The spirit demons closest to Suzimo were rooted on the spot with blank expressions. Blood oozed from their noses and mouth as they fell one after another. The eyes of the spirit demons were dim, all of them were dead. Given Suzimo's current cultivation, physique and bloodline, the burst from his voice technique was something that those spirit demons could not withstand. Even the fiend demons that were present shuddered violently. The two fiend demons that were fighting Monkey and the spirit tiger felt their minds go blank and their expressions froze. They were stunned on the spot. There was no way Monkey would let that opportunity slip. He rose and reached out to wring the head of the fiend demon before him off. The spirit tiger bit off the throat of the fiend demon opposite him and was invigorated. Don't fall in love with fighting. Focus on fighting our way out. Suzimo let out a deep growl and continued to lead Monkey and the other three to charge outside. They would only be put in a tighter spot if they were entangled here. Trying to run? Stay. The soaring leopard and intermediate tiger's voices sounded. Both of them had already attacked. A cold light flashed. A gigantic flying disc tore through the air and almost sliced the voids into two. It arrived before Suzimo instantly with a frightening aura. Suzimo's heart skipped a beat. He could sense dharmic power coming from the flying disc. It was a fiend demon dharmic weapon. Although his body was strong and could even break spirit weapons, he could not defend against the edge of a dharmic weapon. Dharmic weapons were extremely precious in the world of demons. That was because demons did not know how to refine weapons. The dharmic weapons they used were either obtained from killing human cultivators or the body parts, bones, fangs, or claws from the body of some powerful grand demon. The flying disc was a scale from a high-level fiend demon. The intermediate tiger obtained it by chance and used it as a tribute to create his own destiny dharmic weapon. This was a dharmic weapon that was unusually tough with sharp edges and could be used defensively or offensively. It could block damage or be thrown out to deal lethal damage. Phew! The sound of a sharp blade tearing through the air echoed. The soaring leopard struck and another cold flash of light appeared. Suzimo could see clearly that the cold light was a dagger that had intricate patterns etched on it. There were 3 patterns and it was clear that this was a weapon created by a human weapon refinement master. It was a superior-grade perfected Lord dharmic weapon. It was unknown how the soaring leopard got his hands on the dharmic weapon, but it was something extremely rare for him. Needless to say, the two of them were definitely strong and experienced in combat, given the fact that they were able to obtain the positions of protectors. Both of them could tell that Suzimo's physique was terrifying, bloodline was unusual and was extremely strong in melee combat. They might not be able to win him even if they joined forces. The two of them merely exchanged a single glance before summoning their destiny dharmic weapons at the same time to release a furious wave of attack. The remaining fiend demons gradually snapped out of their stupor from Suzimo's vocal technique and resumed their charge forward. The 2 dharmic weapons arrived instantly. Suzimo stood on the spot motionlessly, as though he had given up after he knew that he could not dodge it. The soaring leopard and intermediate tiger gripped their fists and their eyes lit up. Immediately after, the excitement in their eyes gradually vanished when they caught sight of what happened. Instead, their eyes were filled with doubt, shock, and disbelief. The demonic chi that surrounded Suzimo became thicker by the moment. As the demonic chi rumbled around him, gigantic, lifelike demons were swiftly summoned one after another and slowly materialize. The demons emanated an ancient aura, as though they came from the wilderness of the ancient era. Instantly, the weather changed and the world quaked. The entire forest went silent. All the demon beasts present, be it spirit demons or fiend demons, kept silent in fear when they were watched by the 7 ancient demons. They did not even dare to breathe heavily. Chapter 799, Slaying the Protectors. Chapter 799, Slaying the Protectors. The speed of the scale and dagger slowed down before they even approached Suzimo. After the 7 ancient demon kings descended, the 2 dharmic weapons could not push forward and trembled endlessly in midair as though they were under tremendous pressure. The expressions of the soaring leopard and intermediate tiger changed starkly. Both of them could clearly sense that their controls over their destiny dharmic weapons were weakening rapidly. Roar! The sanguine ape and hell tiger roared at the same time and opened their massive mouths. As the demonic chi rumbled, the 2 of them devoured the 2 dharmic weapons. Ooah! The soaring leopard and intermediate tiger grunted deeply and their faces turned paler. Both of them lost their connections to their dharmic weapons. The dharmic weapons were their destiny dharmic weapons and had been refined for several hundred years using their essence spirits after they became fiend demons. Even if their dharmic weapons were lost, they could sense them from thousands of miles apart. That was unless somebody was able to erase the spirit consciousness that they had imbued into their destiny dharmic weapons. But, how was that possible? The 2 of them had refined their destiny dharmic weapons for several hundred years. If anybody of the same cultivation realm wanted to erase the imprint of their spirit consciousness from the dharmic weapons and use it themselves, they would have to spend several hundred years as well. That was also one of the benefits of a destiny dharmic weapon. It was not easily lost. Even if anybody stole their destiny dharmic weapons, they would have to spend a long time erasing the spirit consciousness on the destiny dharmic weapon. It was truly not worth the trouble. In fact, the destiny dharmic weapon itself would pose a huge problem if the other party were to escape with it. The destiny dharmic weapon was connected in a mysterious manner with its cultivator. By carrying the destiny dharmic weapon of an enemy, one was exposing their current location and they would not know when their enemy would come knocking. The destiny dharmic weapon would lead to one's death if its owner came searching for it with powerful enemies. Of course, if one's cultivation realm was far superior to the other party, they could make use of supreme dharmic powers to erase the spirit consciousness in the destiny dharmic weapon with ease. For example, if a mid-level fiend demon such as the Howling Moon Territorial Lord were to make a move, he could probably erase the spirit consciousness within the Soaring Leopard and Intermediate Tiger's destiny dharmic weapons in less than 6 hours. However, that was why everything was bizarre. The person before the Soaring Leopard and Intermediate Tiger was not a mid-level fiend demon. To be precise, this person was not even a fiend demon. Although he was powerful with rumbling demonic chi and a torrential ferocity, there was a bright inner core that circulated within its chest. It was clear that this man was a spirit demon. How could a spirit demon erase the spirit consciousnesses of 2 destiny dharmic weapons? Right then, the ancient demon king that devoured the scale and dagger spat out the 2 dharmic weapons once more. The Soaring Leopard and Intermediate Tiger were delighted. I don't know what method this lad used to casually create a few beasts, humph. However, all of them only look strong but have no substance. Now that they know the pain, they have no choice but to spit our dharmic weapons out. Foo-foo, the power of a dharmic weapon isn't something that a mere spirit demon can challenge. The 2 of them sneered internally and a thought crossed their minds. They wanted to retrieve their destiny dharmic weapons using their spirit consciousnesses. The moment they looked at the 2 dharmic weapons, their gazes froze. The joy in their eyes had long vanished. In its place was endless shock. When the demonic chi dispersed and the 2 dharmic weapons reappeared, they were riddled with holes and dim without light. It no longer mattered whether the imprints of their spirit consciousnesses were still within. After all, both dharmic weapons were crippled and extremely battered in the blink of an eye. It was no longer just bizarre, it was frightening. Neither of them knew that the beasts they assumed were casually summoned were actually from the bloodline phenomenon of Suzimo after he cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness. Although the 2 of them were low-level fiend demons, they had never heard of a bloodline phenomenon. Less than that, they did not know of the terror of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness. What was the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness? It was a supreme demon classic that could overturn the world, twist yin and yang and steal creation by itself. It was the only copy within this world. The reason why Suzimo was able to reach where he was step by step was all thanks to this cultivation technique left behind by Dai Yu. That was why he could remain standing against the crushing tides in Myriad Phenomenon City and kill the Rakshasas and God Race leader overwhelmingly despite successive battles and depleted spirit energy. The 2 low-level fiend demons were truly dreaming to think that they could injure Suzimo with those 2 low-graded dharmic weapons. Kill. Suzimo's expression turned cold and he gave a deep roar. The 7 ancient demon kings around him roared and charged in all directions into the crowd with devastating killing power. There were more than 30 low-level fiend demons around them and the presence of the 7 ancient demon kings was a disaster for them. Some of the fiend demons were indignant and wanted to take on the incoming anaconda foolishly. Instead, the anaconda coiled around them and ruptured their internal organs. A look of fear flashed through the Soaring Leopard and Intermediate Tiger's eyes when they saw that and they wanted to retreat. All of a sudden, they felt their scalps prickle and their hairs stood on end. They were already targeted by Suzimo. They felt chills run down their spines when his overwhelming killing intent engulfed them. As though he could read their minds, Suzimo said coldly, "Don't dream of escaping since you're the ones that came knocking." Swoosh. An evil gust of wind blew before his sentence was completed. Suzimo had already closed into them in a flash. Herg. He spoke with a thunderous boom. The 2 of them were rattled. After all, The soaring leopard and intermediate tiger were protectors of Howling Moon Mountain. A decisive look flashed through their eyes and they chose to take the attack head-on together instead of turning to flee. At that moment, if the both of them were to flee, they would definitely die. The two of them had already reverted to their true forms and had ferocious gazes. A ball of blinding light intensified within their gigantic mouths that were opened. The ball of light gave off a powerful energy fluctuation. It was a demonic art. Demons would awaken their lineage memories when they advanced to fiend demons. Some rare fiend demons would find secret skills that made use of dharmic powers within their lineage memories, and those secret skills were referred to by human cultivators as demonic art. In other words, demonic arts were dharmic arts used by fiend demons. All of a sudden, a blood-colored butterfly appeared behind Suzimo. There were 2 round moons etched on the wings of the blood-colored butterfly that resembled a pair of eyes, glaring coldly at the soaring leopard and intermediate tiger. The dharmic powers in the mouths of the soaring leopard and intermediate tiger dissipated when they were stared upon by the pair of eyes. Immediately after, the wings of the blood butterfly flapped gently. Bang! Bang! There were 2 dull thuds. The light balls in the mouths of the soaring leopard and intermediate tiger exploded instantly. Ah! The 2 protectors cried tragically and fresh blood streamed from their mouths that were ruptured into a bloody mess. Suzimo reached out and slapped the 2 of them on the head violently. Snap! The sound of bones cracking could be heard. The 2 protectors shuddered and their gazes went blank before dimming. The palm strikes ruptured the essence spirits of the 2 protectors. With the death of the 2 protectors, the accompanying demon army was gradually defeated as well. A gigantic path appeared in the encirclement that surrounded them initially. Monkey and the others were invigorated and wanted to give chase to fight to their heart's content, but they were held back by Suzimo. Don't crave for battle. We have to leave this place first. Suzimo had already reverted to his original form and had a calm expression as he brought Monkey and the other 3 with him to break free of the encirclement and escape far away. Chapter 800 Nowhere to Hide. Chapter 800 Nowhere to Hide. Dangers lurked everywhere within the forest. The blood stench of this place would definitely attract even stronger demon beast. They would only be stuck in danger if they were caught up with the other demon beasts. Right now, they were only spirit demons. They were nothing much in the 8 demon regions and were at the bottom of the food chain within the entire demon world. No matter how many trump cards Suzimo had and how strong he was, he could not defeat mid-level fiend demons. Furthermore, he had to try his best to conceal his means from the Immortal, Buddhist and fiend sects within the demon regions. If he exposed his identity as a human cultivator, he would be an outcast within the entire Thousand Demon Valley, let alone Howling Moon Mountain. Suzimo brought Monkey and the others and fought out of the encirclement. They decided on a rough direction and sprinted all the way east to seek shelter. Before daybreak, Suzimo lost all the spirit demons that were hot on their tails and found another secluded cave. He scanned the vicinity carefully and entered after ensuring that there were no spirit demons watching them. The cave was connected to the front and the back of the mountain and Suzimo checked out its interior before nodding to himself. He decided to hide here temporarily and prepare for their breakthroughs. Right now, the most pressing matter for them was to break through from the core formation realm and cultivate their essence spirit. For all 5 of them, an advancement to the next realm would increase their combat strength by leaps. Each of them obtained treasures from the ancient battlefield that could be used after they became fiend demons. Take a rest first and compose yourself. Make sure you are calm mentally. Suzimo could see fatigue on the faces of Monkey and the other 3. He reminded them before turning to leave. He started setting up formations on both ends of the cave. Around 6 hours later, right when he had just set up the formations at the entrance of the cave, Suzimo felt something amiss. More spirit demons were starting to gather in the vicinity. Furthermore, the number of them gathered increase. Suzimo could tell that the spirit demons were here for them. They were exposed again. How could that be? He stood within the cave with a dark gaze, glaring at the beast eyes that appeared within the depths of the forest from time to time through a formation between them. Previously, it was two protectors of Howling Moon Mountain. Who was it this time round? After a moment of silence, Suzimo turned to wake Monkey and the other three who were recuperating. If I'm not wrong, we've been discovered by the demon beasts of Howling Moon Mountain again. We'll go and kill them off again. The spirit tiger waved his fist with confidence. However, this time round, the prideful monkey said nothing. Suzimo continued, the demon beasts sent by Howling Moon Mountain are only going to get stronger. I won't even be surprised if the Howling Moon Territorial Lord came personally this time round. What should we do? Little Fox had a worried expression. We'll leave here and continue on, Suzimo replied. All right. Monkey and the others nodded and followed Suzimo to leave from the back of the cave. They were on jitters throughout the entire journey. It was no wonder why the Thousand Demon Valley was one of the 8 demon regions. During this period of time, they came across 3 mid-level fiend demons. Thankfully, Suzimo's spirit perception alerted them to it so that they could avoid the mid-level fiend demons. Even Suzimo felt shudders when he sensed the aura emanated by a bird that flew above them. The aura of the bird resembled the old Immortal crane, and it was probably not a mid-level fiend demon. There was a high chance that it was a high-level fiend demon and an overlord. There was naturally no way they could hide their tracks from the bird. However, the bird merely glanced at the 5 of them indifferently. As though it could not be bothered because their cultivation realms were too low, the bird did not stop and just flew over them. They could come across similar situations at any moment. In other words, the 5 of them had to take on the risk of being devoured by stronger demon beasts at any moment if they wanted to cross the demon region. Before long, Suzimo located yet another ideal spot for hiding. A cave was hidden behind a waterfall and it was extremely spacious within. Although the running sound of the waterfall could be heard, that could be resolved easily with a sound barrier formation at the entrance of the cave. Suzimo felt relieved when he entered the place with Monkey and the others. After another 6 hours, just as Suzimo was halfway through with his array formation setups at the cave entrance, his ears twitched and he listened intently. A moment later, he rose with a cold glint in his eyes. They were discovered again. Demons had caught up to them here. Suzimo recounted carefully through his mind and was certain that they were not followed the entire time. There were no spirit demons that caught sight of them in the vicinity as well. Yet, how were they exposed once again? What went wrong? Signs of exhaustion could already be seen on Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching and Little Fox's faces. They had not rested the entire time after they left the ancient battlefield and were tired from running for their lives. If this continued on, Monkey and the others wouldn't be able to hang on even if Suzimo could. Suzimo frowned with a dark expression. They no longer had any place to hide. They were in a predicament the moment they entered the Thousand Demon Valley and the situation was worse than he had imagined. Did they really have to fight with their lives? Suddenly, Suzimo's heart skipped a beat and he spun around furiously to glare at the ground not far away. His muscles tensed up and he was ready to strike at any moment. Although Monkey and the others could not sense it, he could vaguely sense vibrations deep underground. Somebody was here. Something was not right. Suzimo focused his gaze and sensed carefully with an odd look in his eyes. Before long, a tiny mud bump popped up on the ground. Immediately after, the mound opened up and a shifty head with sleazy, tiny eyes popped out and scanned the place in a furtive manner. The pair of eyes roved onto Suzimo's body and froze. Their eyes met. Indeed, it's you. Suzimo gave a fake smile. The thing that burrowed out of the mound was the gigantic rat that brought them here from the ancient battlefield. Suzimo's group clashed against the 3 fiend demons the moment they arrived. Initially, the rat was on the side of the 3 fiend demons. Later on, when it sensed something amiss in the situation after the battle broke out, it disappeared. To think that it would come knocking. Brothers, I'm so sorry. The rat was half buried in the mud and said in an embarrassed manner, I didn't expect something like this to happen after bringing you guys to the Howling Moon Mountain. Monkey and the others woke up as well. The spirit tiger could not help but sneer when he recounted the way the rat looked when it stood on the side of the three fiend demons. "Are you here because you have a death wish?" No. The rat was shocked and a large part of its body fell back into the hole. It merely revealed half of its head, as though it was ready to escape at any moment, and laughed bitterly. The situation was pressing back then. I had no other choice. Just as the spirit tiger was about to mock it, Suzimo waved it off and asked indifferently, "What are you here for? How did you find us?" Cough. The rat coughed gently. "Actually, your location has been exposed." "Obviously." The spirit tiger pouted his lips. "Even an idiot knows that we've been exposed since you're here. Brother Batian, do you know how you guys were exposed?" The rat asked. Suzimo's eyes shimmered and he looked at the rat silently, awaiting its answer. Chapter 801, Breakthroughs. Chapter 801, Breakthroughs. There's a deputy territorial lord for Howling Moon Mountain. The rat said, "The reason why you guys are being exposed is because of the deputy territorial lord, Chan Rui." "Chan Rui?" Suzimo murmured slowly and a look of realization filled his eyes, as though he thought of something. The rat continued, "Lord Chan Rui's true form is an ancient remnant beast, the mystic jade cricket of the cricket race that rules over the mountainous region within a few thousand kilometers radius of Howling Moon Mountain. The five of you are a large mark and easily recognizable as you travel through the forest. As long as there are crickets, your location will be exposed." The spirit tiger and the others were dumbfounded. Although he had spent a period of time in the Wild Lion Ridge with Monkey, he had never heard of such means. How many crickets were there in the forest? There were probably innumerable. This meant that every single move they made had been watched by the enemies the entire time. The ordinary cicadas cannot even be considered as spirit demons. However, once they become sentient, they possess the communication method unique to the cicada race and can relay your location to Lord Chan Rui's side. Suzimo nodded silently. There was no mistake. Back when they were hiding in the first cave, Suzimo already felt something odd when he heard the crickets outside the cave. He felt that something was amiss, as though they were being spied on, but he could not put his finger to it. Now, he knew where the problem was. "What should we do?" Little Fox was worried. According to the rat, they had been spied on the entire time and would be discovered no matter where they were. There was nowhere for them to hide. After all, there were crickets everywhere in the forest. The best way is to leave the radius of Howling Moon Mountain temporarily. Suzimo said deeply, "Once we break through from the core formation realm and cultivate our essence spirits to become fiend demons, we can hide our aura and change our appearances. Those crickets won't be able to recognize us even if we return here." "Brother, you sure are smart." "You're absolutely right." The rat complimented him hurriedly. Ching Ching furrowed her brow. "However, we know nothing about Howling Moon Mountain. If we move without any direction, we'll be caught by that Chan Rui person before we even leave Howling Moon Mountain." Suzimo did not reply and merely turned to look at the rat with a fake smile. The spirit tiger's heart stirred and his gaze turned fierce as he said threateningly, "Rat, take us out or, humph." The rat broke out in sweat and said hurriedly, "Don't get worked up, Brother Batian. The reason why I'm here is to present you guys with a map of Howling Moon Mountain." The rat threw out a map made of beast hide as it spoke. However, it did not come personally and half of its body was still hidden in the hole, as though it was ready to escape at any moment, afraid that the spirit tiger might capture it. Suzimo picked up the map and gave it a rough glance. Apart from the terrain, the map even possessed some information about the territories nearby Howling Moon Mountain. This was way too important to them. With this map, they could easily choose a nearest direction and method to leave Howling Moon Mountain. Previously, they sprinted eastwards the entire way. If they continued in that direction, they won't be able to leave Howling Moon Mountain even after half a month. However, after checking with the map, they could escape from this place within a couple of days if they changed directions and headed to the south. "Rat, this map isn't fake, is it?" The spirit tiger looked askance at the rat and asked, "Why are you so kind as to come such a long distance just to help us?" Suzimo was also watching the rat when the spirit tiger asked the question. The spirit tiger's worries were not unfounded. The rat rubbed its palms together and said embarrassedly, "I brought you guys here and I truly feel bad for everything that happened later on. We don't owe one another anything else after I give you this map." Suzimo was relieved. There was no hint of panic in the rat's eyes, it did not seem like it was lying. "Since that's the case, let's move now." Suzimo could sense that the number of spirit demons gathering were increasing. They won't be able to escape if this carried on, and Chan Rui arrived with more fiend demons. Before departing, Suzimo turned and looked at the rat. "Won't you be implicated for giving us the map?" "I'm fine." The rat waved it off. "I found this place through my own capabilities as well. As long as you guys don't tell, nobody will know that I gave you the map. Farewell, see you again." Suzimo led Monkey and the others out of the waterfall and fled into the distance. "We had better not meet again." The rat looked at the direction where Suzimo's group departed and murmured. It burrowed into the hole and vanished in the blink of an eye. 3 days later. The Black Sand Ridge was also a territory that was side by side to Howling Moon Mountain. The name of its territorial lord was the Black Sand Monster and its true form was unknown. It possessed frightening strength, was bloodthirsty and its territory was much larger than Howling Moon Mountain. At this moment, Suzimo's group located a secluded cave at the intersection of Black Sand Ridge and Howling Moon Mountain and settled down temporarily. Once they were out of the territory of Howling Moon Mountain, they were free from the tracking of the cricket race. Suzimo set up array formations painstakingly in the vicinity of the cave once again for safety precautions. Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching and Little Fox were cultivating within and their conditions gradually stabilized. Slowly, they were in perfect conditions for their breakthroughs to the nascent soul realm at any moment. Suzimo guarded the entrance of the cave motionlessly, trying his best to repress his churning inner core and the throbbing golden core in his abdomen. Suddenly, his eyes jerked open and he turned back, sensing something. The first to break through was Monkey. Monkey's aura had already begun to transform. A wisp of faint might engulfed downwards. That was heaven and earth powers. Although it was only a single wisp, it was terrifying enough. Monkey's flesh split apart and his fur fell off. However, immediately after, new layers of flesh grew atop one another and his entire body became taller and stronger. The transformation process of a body was extremely painful. Monkey's body quivered the entire time. However, he had a proud expression and did not make a single peep of sound. The aura led the spirit tiger's body to change as well. Roar. Suddenly, the spirit tiger let out a roar and reverted to his true form. A series of crackling sounds could be heard from within his body as it expanded and his muscles swelled. Core. Ching Ching began her breakthrough after the spirit tiger. Her breakthrough triggered the bloodline of the Bai-Fang that was within her body and her body blazed with a light green flame. Her aura intensified continuously. Little Fox was the last to break through. It was different from Monkey, the spirit tiger and Ching Ching. Little Fox's breakthrough created the least commotion and a pink mist shrouded her body. Steam rose with a faint fragrance that could bewitch one's mind. Suzimo watched fixedly with a nervous expression. A breakthrough of the core formation realm to cultivate an essence spirit was equivalent to communicating with heaven and earth and advancing instantly. It was a heavenly defying act that was extremely dangerous. Throughout history, there had been countless people who died at this stage, be it demons or human cultivators. If one failed the breakthrough process from the Foundation Establishment realm to the Golden Core realm, their spirit meridians would be snapped and their spirit energies would disperse entirely. However, they had a chance to live as mortals. But a failure in advancement from the core formation realm to the nascent soul realm would result in instant death. An unknown period of time passed. The auras around Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching and Little Fox gradually stabilized and their furrowed brows became relaxed as well. A tremendous amount of life force surged from within their bodies. Suzimo knew that the 4 of them had already become fiend demons. Next, it was his turn. Chapter 802 Arrival of Danger. Chapter 802 Arrival of Danger. After 3 days, the cultivation realms of Monkey and the other 3 stabilized and they woke up one after another. They experienced heaven and earth through the essence spirits in their spirit consciousnesses and their eyes were filled with joy and surprise. With the cultivation of their essence spirits, they were completely at the state of inedia and could cultivate by devouring the essence of day and night. This was equivalent to them tempering their bodies, tendons, and bones as well as refining their essence spirits using the heaven and earth powers. This was a higher level than consuming flesh. At this point of their cultivation, powerful demon beasts would awaken the lineage memories in their bloodlines. Their lineage memories may contain cultivation techniques to refine one's spirit or some demonic arts. The stronger the bloodline, the better the rewards of their lineage memories would be. For ancient remnant beasts and pure-blooded ferocious beasts, they would have their own unique lineage memories. Although Monkey was already awake, his eyes were squinted, as though he was experiencing something. The origin of his bloodline was unknown, but it was definitely extraordinary. His bloodshot eyes alone were proof of that. The spirit tiger was originally a plain demon beast without any lineage memories. Even when he cultivated the Void Thunder manual later on, he merely underwent a blood marrow swap that improved on his body's fundamental qualities. But right now, the spirit tiger was clearly in a state where he was receiving lineage memories. The lineage came from the 4 tiger claws in the astral dragon sputum lair. The 4 tiger claws were infused into the spirit tiger's body and naturally passed down their lineage memories. The bloodline of the Bai Fang flowed within Ching Ching's body and she naturally had lineage memories as well. Little Fox possessed many secret skills from her lineage of the fox race as well. Monkey and the other 3 needed time to digest their current state of being as fresh fiend demons. It wasn't just to comprehend their lineage memories, they had to sense heaven and earth using their essence spirits as well. They could finally refine the weapons they obtained from the astral dragon sputum lair as well. First, go and cultivate. We'll guard here. Monkey came beside Suzimo and said. All right. Suzimo did not decline and headed into the depths of the cave. He assumed a lotus position and closed his eyes to gather his chi in peace. Unknowingly, an odd sensation surged through his heart. Although his eyes were closed, he seemed like he could see every corner of his body, including his organs and meridians. It was a mysterious sensation. It was like the legendary inner vision. Suzimo could see 2 gigantic cores that were swiveling slowly. One of them was in his chest, a blood core with a scarlet glow. The other was in his abdomen, a golden core with a blinding glare. The auras of the 2 gigantic cores were starkly different. At this moment, the power of both cores were at their limits and they vibrated, as though they wanted to break free from their core chambers and surge into the air. Suzimo felt a wave of boundless heaven and earth powers. He had never felt that heaven and earth were so close to him. It was as though he could feel the breathing of heaven and earth as well as its pulse. The next moment, Suzimo saw the layer of void. The so-called void was the shackles from heaven and earth that bound a cultivator. To cultivate was to go against the heavens and break through the realms to expand one's lifespan. They were breaking free from the shackles implemented on every single living being by heaven and earth. There was an ancient saying in the cultivation world that one could see their spirit as long as they could break through the void. The breakthrough of the void was actually referring to the breaking free of that shackle. The 2 gigantic cores within his body were what he needed to break through and free himself. Suzimo no longer repressed himself. His inner core transformed into a streak of bloodlight and his golden core turned into a streak of golden light. Both of them left their core chambers at the same time and surged into the layer of void within his body. Bang! Bang! 2 gigantic explosions burst forth in the void above his inner core and golden cores. Suzimo shuddered. The void shuddered as well, but nothing unusual happened to it. His inner and golden cores fell and hovered in midair momentarily before launching another attack upward. Bang! 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 The 2 cores clashed against the void endlessly and released earth-shaking explosions. The void quivered and finally, ripples appeared one after another. 4 ordinary perfected beings, They only had a single golden core within their body when they broke through the voids and released themselves from the shackles. However, Suzimo had 2 cores. Not only that, his inner core was created through cultivating the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness and possessed frightening strength. His golden core contained the essence of the immortal, Buddhist, and fiend Taoes as well. No void or shackles could withstand the burst power from these 2 supreme cores. This was also the reason why it was relatively simpler for paragons among perfected beings to advance to the nascent soul realm. The power of a golden core within any perfected being that could be referred to as a paragon was definitely superior compared to others. The stronger the power of one's golden core, the easier it was for them to break through the void. Before long, a series of cracks surfaced on the layer of void and it was on the brink of shattering after the repeated bursts from the inner and golden core. Everything went smoothly. However, Suzimo's expression darkened. For any other cultivator, the danger of breaking through to the nascent soul realm might have been the process of breaking through the voids. After all, it would be a failure if they could not break through the layer of void and their golden cores would rupture internally, leading to their deaths. However, Suzimo's situation was different from others. His danger probably came after his breakthrough of the void. Suzimo did not dare to be distracted and focused on breaking through the void barrier wholeheartedly. Bang! Boom! Bang! Finally, a loud explosion echoed after the relentless attacks. The void shattered. Instantly, Suzimo felt a weight lifted from his body, as though an invisible shackle was broken. His glabella shone with a light spot. His body was connected to heaven and earth and the Niwen Palace had appeared. Suzimo caught sight of an incorporeal body of light within the Niwen Palace. That body of light was his soul. He would not have been able to see the existence of his soul if he had not broken through the void. His inner and golden cores charged into the Niwen Palace and a resplendent light filled the entire chamber instantly. It was white all over and reflected the palace within the depths of his glabella flawlessly. Immediately after was the formation of his essence spirit. The soul was incorporeal and a corporeal object that resembled an infant would be formed after the golden core was fused into the soul. That was the essence spirit. Suzimo took out a spirit-gathering fruit from his storage bag and consumed it. The spirit-gathering fruit melted right away in his mouth and a ball of essence chi surged into his spirit platform. With the push of the ball of essence chi, Suzimo's inner and golden cores pushed his soul at the same time. Suzimo's heart skipped a beat and he sensed danger. There was naturally no issue for any other cultivator once their golden core fused with their soul. However, his body did not merely contain the golden core, he had an inner core as well. In other words, the likely outcome if both his golden and inner cores fought for his soul at the same time would be. Before he could finish that thought, he felt a series of excruciating pains from his soul. Suzimo howled in pain and collapsed with his head facing the air. His body trembled uncontrollably as he coiled up with a pale expression. Monkey and the others were initially refining their weapons at the entrance of the cave. All of them jumped in shock when they heard the commotion. "Young master!" Little Fox yelped with a flustered expression and dashed towards Suzimo. "Don't go!" Monkey held her back with a grim look on his face. If he receives any external disturbances at a moment like this, there's a chance that he might not make it through the tribulation. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.